Good evening and welcome to a regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. It's regular because it is the first Tuesday in the month of January 2022. It's regular because it is 6 o'clock and this is our starting time, but it's not really a regular meeting. We have a lot in store, and in fact, we'll be welcoming new council members soon to our city council. Welcome to a new year. Thanks for coming this evening. I'd like to invite you to stand at this time and join me. The invocation tonight is led by Pastor Ron Lawler, and immediately following that, I will do the Pledge of Allegiance. Pastor Lawler?
If you'd like to pray with me. Our Father in heaven, we are grateful and excited about starting a new year. We're looking forward to things going way better than last year. Thank you for the leadership you've given to our city. We ask for your blessing on the city council, the mayor, and all those who make our city operate so well. We ask you for wisdom and discernment for the task and special wisdom for the appointment of the new city council position. May your peace and health and blessing rest on each participant. Amen.
Thank you, Pastor Lawler. Please join me in the pledge. So due to COVID-19, this will be both a physical meeting location and a virtual meeting per Washington Proclamation 20-28. Due to Governor Inslee's order, masks are required for everyone in council chambers, regardless of vaccination status. City staff are participating for the most part via teleconference. Guests that are included in staff presentations will be excused from the Ring Central meeting at the conclusion of the agenda item as appropriate. Tonight's meeting may be viewed live via YouTube and on cable channel 10, HD 1090. And at this time, I'd like for our city clerk to please call the roll.
Thank you, Mayor. Mayor Pro Tem Munns. Present. Councilmember Heisen.
Present.
Councilmember Evans.
Present.
Councilmember Hoffmeyer.
Present.
Councilmember Wiesner.
Present.
Councilmember Stuckey.
Present.
Mayor, all members of council are present.
Thank you, Clerk Julie. I think that sounded like a curveball to the first member who hasn't been truly brought into our membership yet, but handled it well, Mr. Evans, soon to be City Councilor Evans. We have with us this evening our Honorable William Bill Hawkins to administer 4 oaths of offices. Those taking their oaths this evening are Dan Evans, position 4, newly elected. Shane Hoffmeyer, position 5, newly elected. Jim Wiesner, position 6, re-elected. Brian Stuckey, position 7, newly elected. Brian was previously sworn in and began serving immediately in November as he replaced an appointed council member. So at this time, I'd like to welcome Judge Hawkins, and thank you for coming this evening.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and thank you for inviting me. I enjoy doing this. It's actually one of the funner things we get to do. I was told that we get to remove our mask when we're speaking, and I intend to take full advantage of that. And first of all, congratulations to the 4 of you on your electoral victories. You have chosen an interesting time to enter into leadership of our city. And I say that because this morning, the first thing I heard on the news was that we have set a new record in this country for 1 million new COVID cases yesterday, which was up from 500,000 the day before. So we are facing not only an exponential part of the curve, but pretty much of a straight climb. Can't wait to hear what it's going to be for tomorrow. But you're going to have your hands full, no doubt. And it reminds me of a Chinese oath, a Chinese proverb that says, may you live in interesting times, which of course is both a blessing and a curse. And you're probably going to experience both. But for these candidates for this special event and for the class of 22, I'm going to, in your virtually unprecedented mission, I'm going to dedicate to you a quote and a sentiment that was passed on to me 42 years ago when I was an entering first-year law student. The tradition in my law school, University of Colorado, was that the departing third-year class would welcome, take under their wing the first-year students. And so the third-year president of the class had a quote that she dedicated to us. And for all these years, I have waited to see if I would have an opportunity to pass it on. And tonight, I'm going to pass it on to the four of you. It was given to us in Latin. I'll tell you the Latin version first, then I'll give you the English translation. And it's from The Wizard of Oz. And the Latin version of this one saying is, Senseo toto nos incansa esse decissi. Right. What it means is, and you'll remember Dorothy saying this to her faithful companion, Toto, I have a feeling we're not in Kansas anymore. And if you have that feeling sitting here in the chambers, it may not be the last time that you have that feeling. And of course, Dorothy and her newfound friends, the Tin Man, the Scarecrow, the Cowardly Lion, together confronted a strange new world. And they might have been or seemed a motley crew, but if you think of it, they complemented each other very well. One with brains and no heart, one with a heart and no brains, one with no courage, and Dorothy with all of those traits and full of wonderment. And together they worked well as a team. They accomplished their mission, just as I'm sure the four of you will. Along the way, they learned some valuable lessons. Now, some of you already noted during the campaign this sentiment, my, people come and go so quickly around here. And by the way, anybody know who said that? Which of the characters said that? That was Dorothy. And before long, as you sit through what can be very lengthy council meetings, not to say interminable, but sometimes you might think that, you may find yourself thinking, some people without brains do an awful lot of talking, don't they? And you know who said that? That was the Scarecrow of himself. He said that of himself in the movie. As city officials, you're going to have your hands full. You're going to be dealing with poverty, homelessness, housing shortage, substance abuse, and all the rest of the issues. It will no doubt be heartbreaking. But remember the Tin Man saying, remember his quest was to find a heart, and he said, I've got a heart because it's breaking. You will probably experience that as well. Now, having a heart in politics can be difficult and troubling. And the Wizard of Oz said this about heart. And she said this to the Tin Man. As for you, my galvanized friend, you want a heart. You don't know how lucky you are not to have one. Hearts will never be practical until they can be made unbreakable. But then she added this. A heart is shown not by how much you love, but by how much you are loved by others. Like the lion, you may struggle to find the courage that your newfound position requires. And remember him saying, wait a minute, fellas, I was just thinking, I really don't want to see the wizard this much. I better wait for you outside. A few minutes later, though, he said, I'll go in there for Dorothy, wicked witch or no wicked witch, guards or no guards. I'll tear them apart. I may not come out alive, but I'm going in there. There's only one thing I want you fellas to do, talk me out of it. And you may struggle back and forth with sentiments like that as well. And then you may find that different approaches work. Sometimes an issue can be solved when you force it. There are times when subtlety and when nuance may come in handy. And the Wicked Witch of the West said at one point, but that's not what's worrying me, it's how you do it. These things must be done delicately or you break the spell. So keep in mind the range of situations that you will encounter. Whatever you do on council, make sure not to lose your own sanity. We don't want to hear you saying things like, I do believe in spooks. I do. That wouldn't be good. One of the most famous lines from the movie is, click your heels together 3 times and think to yourself, there's no place like home, and you'll be there. Which, of course, was what Dorothy wanted to get back home. Now, you can try that if you like on council, if you get really desperate, but good luck getting it to work for you on council. I don't recommend that one technique. Never works on the bench. But once all is said and done, you will surely agree with Dorothy, there is no place like home. And that's why you all serve, because you like your community. And with that, I believe you are ready to take the oath of office. And I have one here, and is the plan for them to stand? Okay, so would the 4 of you please stand? 4 mics on, ready. All right. I, and then I'm going to ask you to repeat your names. I
Dan Evans.
Jim Wiesner.
Brian Stuckey.
Shane Hoffmeyer.
do solemnly swear or affirm.
Do solemnly swear
Or affirm.
You are supposed to repeat this after me, right? Okay. That I am a citizen of the United States
that I am a
Citizen of the United States.
and of the state of Washington.
And the state of Washington.
That I am legally qualified to assume the office
And am legally qualified to assume the office
of City of Oak Harbor Council Member,
of City of Oak Harbor Council Member.
position.
Position 4.
Position 6.
Position 7.
Position 5.
That I will support the Constitution and laws
That I
That will
will
support the Constitution and
of
laws
the United States
of the United States
and of the state of Washington.
and the state of Washington.
And that I will faithfully and impartially
And I will faithfully and impartially
discharge the duties of the office
discharge the duties of the office
to the best of my ability.
to the best of my ability.
You are now ready to assume the duties of city councilman. Round of applause for the councilman.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Judge.
Paperwork to sign?
I think that we'll do the signing at the end of the meeting, is that correct? Okay?
Okay.
And do we need the judge for any signature?
All right.
No, we do not. I just need to notarize each of these gentlemen's signatures.
Okay, I think we're good to go.
We're good.
Again, thank you very much.
Pleasure.
And I hope to not see you in your chambers soon.
Good luck to you.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Congratulations to you all. Right now, it might be a little overwhelming, or no, I've got this. I'm in charge. But I'd like to say to each of you, thank you for bringing your gift to this council. Each of you has different backgrounds. You have different education, whether it be formal or informal, training, but most importantly, your experience. Thank you for bringing your gifts tonight and for the next 4 years to this council and to our city. Congratulations.
You're here. Okay. With that, we will begin with our agenda items. And the first is the approval of the agenda. Are there any proposed changes? If not, I do have one myself. I would like to move item 11A, which is informational report for 2022 parks proposed fee increases, to prior to item 8B, Resolution 2201, amending the master fee schedule. So with that proposed change, I would ask for a motion to approve the agenda as amended.
So moved.
Is there a second?
Second.
So we've got a motion, a second, to approve the agenda as amended. Any questions about that? That motion was made by Councilor Wiesner, a second by Councilor Stuckey. Seeing no questions, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Okay, thank you. We're on a roll. We've got the first one approved, and we will move now to Section 3 of the agenda. We don't have a proclamation yet or a recognition for this evening's meeting, but we do have a community presentation. We have an update, let me see, update on House Bill 1590, funding opportunity for development of affordable housing and related services in Island County. This evening, I think we have Joanne Palant from Island County Human Services Housing Supervisor and Linda Austin, Island County Human Services Director, with us to provide information about the need in Island County. So, Mr. Olborn, are they here virtually? Is that the plan?
I'll start off with the presentation, Mayor.
Okay.
And then they'll be available for questions.
Okay. Take it away.
All right. Good evening. I'm Blaine Olborn, Oak Harbor City Administrator. Good evening, Mayor and City Council. As the Mayor mentioned, I also have present here joining us on virtual is David Cool. Yeah. All right. There we go. I'll yell too. Okay. All right. Thank you. Blaine Olborn, Oak Harbor City Administrator, giving this presentation tonight on HB 59, along with David Cool, Oak Harbor Development Services Director, is joining remotely, and then also joining remotely will be Joanne Plant with the Housing Supervisor with Island County Human Services, and Linda Austin, Director, Island County Human Services. So if we can go to the next slide. 2 slides, actually. I didn't. One more slide. All right, just a little background here of history of what's going on here. This is due to a recent legislative change in June of 2020, and this provided authority for the county or the city to implement a 1% sales tax for affordable housing and related services. So right now, this is part of the outreach phase to give feedback to the board, to the county. The Board of County Commissioners is considering it. I think I did some emails to council and recommend that we let them lead since we're doing it. If they chose not to do it, then the city can do it on a city-wide basis, but a lot more money, as we talked about here, will be on a county-wide, and that's the recommendation. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Okay, just a little background of all the fact sheets that's within here. This is just kind of a little capturing of some of the issues. Some of the benefits here is this would be a new fund source for affordable housing and related services. If the county commission implements it, then it would be a county-wide, and it would bring in about $1.1 million annually is the estimated amount. So that's a lot to go towards and helping out with affordable housing. It'd provide investment in affordable housing, certainly with all this money coming in, $1.1 million a year. The effect would be increase the outside the city, the sales tax from 8.7 to 8.8. And if you remember, the city recently passed a 0.2% sales tax for transportation benefit district for local roads. So we're 0.2% higher. So we would go from 8.9 to 9. And then benefits this would help people below 60% median income. And if you have further questions on that, the county representatives are much more attuned and can speak to that a lot better than I can. And it would also have to do, they would implement a framework for funding plan to be developed if this was implemented. And that's, if you have further questions on that, we have representatives here that can answer that. If we can go to the next slide, please. All right, just some of the background of the material provided in your packet. A little history here. The council did look at affordable housing with a tax credit that came in 2019. We chose to give that to the county and let the county lead in housing. And if the county implements this, that's what we would continue with. So that's where that resolution came from. And then there's in your sheet, there's a nice little sheet. I gave a really brief overview, but there's a lot more questions and answers in that sheet there. On 1590 countywide questions and answers. And then in the next slide here, area sales tax, a little bit comparison there. So everybody has that blue line, that's 6.5, and then each municipality or county has a variety of other taxes that they have approved over the years that generates a lot of different rates. I talked about the difference between the county and the city. And then the overall issue here is all the other jurisdictions except for the municipalities in Island County and Island County itself have already, around us have already implemented. Snohomish County's already implemented the 0.1%, and so has Skagit County. And then you could see the respective rates there for comparison there. So any questions on the rate issue? there's a nice little data there to give you some comparison. So going on to the next slide, is just talking about the process here. So the Island County Board of Commissioners will hold a public hearing on January 18th. At that time, they can decide to implement the tax, they can decide to gather more information, or they can decide not to pursue that tax. So right now, we also have another item on the agenda on 10B, which would be an action item if the council wants to formally do a letter of support for this initiative for the county to do it. That's an option we can discuss later in the agenda. So, and then, like I mentioned, the city can implement a citywide in front of them. Anacortes, I believe, did that in advance of the Skagit County implementing it. And then the last slide is really just the staff and I are here to answer any questions that you have and to help you in your decision. And Joanne and Linda, do you have anything else to add? You're welcome to speak at this time.
So that's Joanne and Linda. Either one want to add to this at this time?
Yeah, we're getting a feedback.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, go ahead, try again.
My problem is I can't hear you, so this is Linda, and I just really appreciate that the council is considering this. It's a wonderful opportunity for our community, and I appreciate that you are taking it seriously, looking at all the questions and answers that have been provided, and Joanne's here. We're both happy to answer any questions.
Any questions from council? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you. What is the deadline that the county and/or city has to make a decision before this goes into action?
So did you hear that, Linda? Question about the deadline for this program to go into action. Do you have that answer? Is there a date that this has a deadline?
I believe my finance director can answer that question too. So it's quarterly, so there's a 90-day notice, or David Goldman, I think you have this on the top of your implementation, if you can help answer.
So are you there, Mr. Goldman?
I'm here. Unfortunately, I don't have that answer. It's more of a legal type of thing as far as deadlines go. But I am reading through the MRSC guidelines right now, so you might want to give me a few minutes, or perhaps the city attorney might be able to weigh in, or the county.
Unfortunately, I don't know that off the top of my head.
There is if they miss it, I think this one, they were having a lot of discussion on this, and they're doing it a little later. If they would have done it earlier in January, so it's going to be the following quarter afterwards. I think it's in probably a July or August implementation date rather than the April quarter date. And Linda, if you're there, I think you probably know this a lot, or Joanne, I think this is also covered in the packet material.
So Mayor Pro Tem said she's got another question, so maybe we could still research the first one. Go ahead, Mayor Pro Tem.
The other question I have is, if the county enacts this, we know that a lot of the affordable housing would be in the city limits of Oak Harbor. And I would hope that the county wouldn't just go around and buy land and build, that they would work with our development service department on really good locations that would fit in with our city plan, keeping trees and things like that, and not just buy property and say, well, this is what we're going to do, and we don't care what you think. So I would hope this would be a partnership in helping to find the best locations, because for multiple family housing, you need sewer and you need water, and Oak Harbor has that. So please consider that strongly when, I'll say, you approve this. Thank you.
Councilor Evans?
Are there specific projects that have been identified that this money is going to be allocated for, or how is this money going to be used specifically?
Let's hope the county people can hear that question. It's a good question. From the material that I gathered and read, that they'd have to develop a plan. So let's hope that one of the two county representatives, unfortunately, we're not having the best reception with them. Certainly a question they should be able to field.
So Joanne or Linda, can you hear us? So I don't think they're hearing us.
Well, we're getting a text here, thank you. All right, item 4 in your packet. Investments of affordable housing provide economic return as businesses have resources to expand, increase local taxes. Unprecedented opportunity to leverage state and federal fundings for acquisition and construction of affordable housing through private partnership. Provides additional local resources with local control to respond more quickly to new opportunities or emerged needs that arise to address affordable housing. Funds of it allow flexibility for acquisition, construction, operation, and maintenance. So it's not exactly the right answer, but it is. Thank you for.
Mayor,
Unmute yourself. But she
Sabrina has her hand raised.
I'm sorry?
Yeah, I just wanted to let everybody know, sorry, Mayor and Blaine, we're seeing in the chat that both individuals, Linda, Austin, and Joanne, are unable to do certain features on their computers and with their connections. So Linda apologizes, but she's having technical difficulties with the system and can't unmute herself. And it sounds like Joanne can't unmute as well. So there's just some technical difficulties with them responding. I was putting in the chat their questions, but they can't seem to communicate with us.
Okay, so the main question is a deadline date, I think, at this point. Obviously, they're going to have to develop a plan, and I think we understand that. They don't have a plan to submit at this point in time. They will develop a plan, but the other thing that Mayor Pro Tem asked was for a deadline date.
I didn't see any of the data that I read.
Mayor, can you hear me now?
Now we can, yes. Linda.
Okay, great. I can't hear you, but I can talk for a minute. There is no deadline per se. You know, the sooner that the county would choose to enact this, the sooner that they can start collecting. But there isn't a timeline for when it's actually has to be enacted.
Yeah, and if I could chime in, I didn't find a deadline in the MRSC guidelines, and I'm looking through the RCW. The only dates I find are if a county did not impose this tax by September 30th, 2020, then a city can impose it on their own jurisdiction. But there's no dates where it says it must be adopted by a certain date or it goes away or anything like that.
So, Mr. Golden, was that September of 2022?
No, there's no deadlines. The only date I found was something that really doesn't apply to what doesn't apply to the discussion that we're having. It was basically giving the counties a head start in adopting it back a year ago, or about a year and a half ago. And if the counties didn't adopt it, then the cities can go on their own and adopt it just for their cities. But that's not under discussion. That was the only date I found. I didn't find any other dates in the RCW. So it does not look like there's a deadline that has to be met in order to go ahead and go forward with this.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Golden. Mr. Olborn?
Yeah, if Ms. Austin, if you can hear me, there was a good question here that was done by a council member asking about how the money is going to be used and what the plan is. And if you can kind of speak to that, I appreciate it. There's a reason why I'm here in person. It's a little bit more reliable, but thank you for bearing with us.
Okay, I think they're definitely having a hard time on their end. So it's my understanding the county will be addressing this at a commissioners' meeting in January?
Yes.
And I thought I saw it's the 18th
Yes.
of January? Okay.
And then later in the agenda, if the council wants to make a position or a recommendation, we have that on agenda item 10B later in the agenda where you can do an action item.
Okay. Counselor Stuckey.
Two questions.
Are you waiting for that? I can give you that answer if you can hear me. Sorry, we're just having real technical problems listening to this. But the allowed uses of the funds are that, at least 60% of the funds need to be used for constructing affordable housing, and funding the operations and maintenance cost of units of affordable housing. I think that's the answer to your question, Mr. Evans, is on number 8 of the FAQ that was given. The specific plan for, framework for funding has not been developed. When it's passed, that will happen with under consult with the City of Oak Harbor, with the City of Langley, the Town of Coopville, and our Housing Advisory Board, and of course, the Board of County Commissioners.
And David Kuhl, our Development Service Director, also sits on the Housing Board for the county. And David, if you have something to add on this, go right ahead. Mr. Kuhl?
Thanks, Ed. Just had to get unmuted there. Appreciate that, Blaine. Yes, on the Housing Advisory Board, we're doing a number of other projects too. The project by the Transition Center, we've got an RFP out also through the housing group to put in housing over near the same site. And this 1%, or 0.2% sales tax will certainly help at 1.1 million, as you pointed out earlier. We'll gain momentum year after year as we continue to put in affordable housing units spread out around the county as well as the city. So this should be successful over a number of years.
Counselor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, I'm going to, I guess, cast my support behind this with like a little precursor. It's going to take many, many things to solve this issue that we've been talking about for many years now, and that is housing affordability. And, we're talking not only housing affordability for people below the median income, but we're just talking about plain old housing affordability for plain old working folk in our community. And the concern I have, quite frankly, is we've come up with several solutions, right? And they've been placed in front of us for about 3.5, 4 years now. And we've even brought in consultants that said we need to implement the information that was put in front of us years ago. And Joanne and Linda were both heavily involved in helping us develop that list. It disturbs me a little bit, right, that here we are as we're digging into the pool, right, and we're digging into a pool of a regressive tax, a tax that not only helps housing may be more affordable, but takes away the affordability of housing from the people by taking money out of their pocket, right? But I also understand it is going to take a multi-directional approach, right? That is not going to be one thing that's going to solve this problem. And I do see this as a piece of the pie. I certainly know that Joanne and her team, could use the money to be able to, help some folks out there, as well as the fact that we could have some long-term projects where we can actually start building some stuff to help with market rate housing. But I guess my concern is to both everybody here as well as the folks down at the county. Let's do something about this, right? Let's start acting on the recommendations we've got in front of us that have been sitting there. let's not just dig into the pockets. It seems like this is kind of the easy route to go, that we're taking the easy route, right? And I realize it'll take a while to build these funds, so I'm not going to be that guy to stand in the way of it, but I am going to be that guy that says, if I'm going to support this, you guys are going to continue to hear from me. Let's get something done with that list. And I'm going to continue to do everything I can to drive that home. This is not going to be a quick and easy fix, and we all need to work together. And the easy path out is not going to be the path that's going to get this issue resolved. We're going to have to put our nose to the grindstone and make some changes. Housing is never going to be affordable until we legalize it. We have a ton of rules and regulations that drive up the cost of housing. We have a ton of rules that do that. Where are the rules that drive down the cost of housing? And we have some of those on a list in front of us that we could be working on, and that's going to be my ask of everybody here in exchange for my support for this, is that we get on that list and we start working on that list and working down that list and start trying to actually make some change, not only by just pouring money at it, but by making affordable housing legal. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Wiesner. Councilor Stuckey, I'm sorry. I think I missed you.
That's okay, Mayor.
Twice now.
Just a couple of questions. The first one, in the resolution, it says, whereas the tax will be credited against state sales tax collected within a jurisdiction and therefore will not result in higher sales and use taxes. Why is that in the resolution if we're talking about the sales tax going up by this amount?
You're going back to the 1591, which was a different.
This is 1936.
1936,
Okay.
and at that time it was a credit.
Okay.
That was not an increase. We had the option of taking the money citywide, and we would have had to do what we had, and we would have had to go to the voters at that time on a referendum. We chose to give our money to the county because they were able to get the area. So that's kind of a little history. Now they've done that new legislation that made it so that we don't have to do a referendum in order to get this passed. And so the council could do this like we talked about. At that time, the city chose not to, and we took that tax and they didn't require us to do a increase, and we chose not to do it in 2019 when we had a different legislation that gave a different credit, and we gave that, I think it was about $27,000 a year. Am I right, Joanne or Linda, on that? And we gave that to the county, and they are utilizing that.
Yes, that was about $150,000 per year that we can collect. So it's not a large amount when we're going to developers and saying that we want to, leverage some of their fund, help with their pre-development costs so they can go after the big money from the Housing Trust Fund and the tax credits.
And then my other question is, let's be clear. We are talking about raising sales tax, and it's such a small amount. That's one argument. It's just 10 cents here and there, but it all adds up. All these little things add up. Seeing the city giving an estimated $35,000, is that going to really make that much of a difference? There is the principle of the matter of raising taxes. I know it's sales tax, but is it really going to make a huge difference?
So that $35,000 was a different credit that the state gave us. Okay, so we could have matched it if we would have done a local tax. We chose not to do it. It would have had to go to the voters back in 2019. Now it doesn't have to. Our portion, we know from our TBD, our portion of that 1.1 million is about $500,000 would come within the city. So we would be a big contributor to that with our box stores and with all the retail happening in our largest population. So that kind of gives you a breakdown. They estimated countywide 1.1 million, and about $500,000 of that, and this 1/10% will come from the city limits and businesses within the city.
Okay. But his point is correct. It will raise the sales tax.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. That's what I'm talking about. We'll go from
that was his question.
Yeah, we'll go from 8.9 to 9% even.
That's right.
If
Okay,
this is implemented.
that was his question.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, other, Councilor Evans.
The one thing that stands out with me on this is the the fact that we're working so hard on this, on something that doesn't have a deadline, because it's a referendum that was passed, or an RCW that was amended, that would not require a referendum or a vote of the people for a tax increase. And, you know, this is my first day here. This is not the first thing I want to do, is raise the taxes of the people that put us here. You know, they should have a say in this. We don't even have a plan of what the money's going to be used for. I am 100% in support of dealing with the affordable housing, but I think we do have to, you know, look at what our responsibilities are and dipping into people's pockets for something that we don't have an actual plan in place of what we're going to use that money for. So this is a struggle for me to support.
Thank you, Councillor Evans. Anyone else? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Eric Mann, who is the Chief Operation Officer for Habitat for Humanity, asked me to relay this tonight, so I'll just quote what he wrote. Please convey that Habitat for Humanity's full support of the adoption of the 1/10 of 1% sales tax and use for affordable housing. I have met with other affordable housing providers in neighboring cities and that have already benefited from this passage and are moving the needle on affordable housing. Please ensure we are not left behind. Habitat, if the county were to pass this, they are now eligible for other pots of money to get grants, so they would be able to build more housing and more kinds of housing. So this is from Habitat. Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Anyone else? Okay, thank you very much for that presentation. Thank you, Joanne and Linda, for your time this evening. We appreciate your being with us. Thank you. We will move on then to section 4, which is our citizen comment period. At this time, citizens may comment on subjects of interest not listed on the agenda or items listed on the consent agenda. Citizens may also comment on corresponding agenda items. In this hybrid meeting format, citizens can attend and give comment in person or via the online comment form at www.oakharbor.org/public comment, or email the city clerk at jlindsay@oakharbor.org prior to 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting, or call 360-279-4571 to leave a voicemail to be played during the council meeting. Call to leave a voicemail after 5 p.m. on the Friday preceding the meeting and prior to 5 p.m. on the day of the meeting. When leaving a voicemail for public comment, please state your first and last name clearly and limit your comments to 3 minutes. Now, we received no comments from employees, is that correct? Okay. Since our last meeting, we have received 3 comments from the public, which were forwarded to council and are displayed on our screen coming here, right?
That's correct, Mayor.
Okay.
McHale, if you will show those comments.
Okay, so we've got comments here in front of you.
Mayor, that concludes the comments that were presented to us prior to the meeting.
Okay, so at this time, if there are members of the public present who wish to speak, this would be the time to do it. And we had a sign-in list, I believe, but that's fine. We will certainly give you 3 minutes, please. Just please come up to the microphone, state your name, and keep your comments to 3 minutes, please.
Good evening, Mayor Severns, Mayor Pro Tem Munns, and council members. My name is Terry Wellner. I'm the project manager for U-Haul of Oak Harbor. And having watched the last couple meetings, it appears to me that there are certain things that you folks may not have been alerted to. One was that early on, we offered to provide 100% of the cost to establish a safe right-in, right-out access off of Highway 20 with speed-up lanes, slow-down lanes, median barriers, whatever was required. We also offered to move the entrance a couple hundred feet north to where it would be a joint access for the city property and U-Haul. Again, with all of the appropriate slow-down, speed-up lanes, median barriers, etc. The state people asked us, well, who told you you can't use the access off of State Route 20? We said, the city told us. And then the state had the contractor for the bridge work up there asked to use our site for staging for their work, and they were denied. Another thing is we have traffic studies that show that the minimum amount of work or the traffic that would be generated from our project would not have a significant impact on Highway 20, and the right-in, right-out access is entirely appropriate. We were also told that at one time that the speed limit, that the city was going to ask the state to reduce the speed limit from 50 miles an hour to 40 miles an hour for numerous reasons out there, FACMA being one. We had the expectation that with certain modifications that we would be able to have access on Highway 20 with the project. So we asked the city for use of, we proposed the use of the 35-foot wide easement from our property down to Case Road, right along State Route 20, and we were denied that access. We also proposed an access across the west side of the city property out to FACMA, the typical frontage road, and we were denied that as well. So the city proposed an entry on the east side of the property, back in the most unimaginable access point to our site. It was down in a hole, 20 foot down in a wooded gully where you couldn't see the site at all. And so they said, okay, give us an alternative, provide something else to do. So that's why we proposed the other three possibilities. So we were told that in 2016 that an easement was established for an access road off of FACMA, and that a construction budget was approved in 2018. Well, the neighbors to the east already have an excellent gravel road right along that area. Furthermore, they're not interested in a city road over there because it would just invite squatters and people dumping garbage on their place. So the location of the proposed city road would not allow for future expansion to 40 foot with walkways and bikeways, et cetera, without getting an additional easement from the neighbor who's not interested. And also, Puget Sound Electric has an easement all along there with power lines, and those power lines and poles would have to be relocated. So at one time, to get to the point we're at, we were coerced into providing 1,200 feet. So we're paying for 1,200 feet of roadway across the east side of Phase 2 of our site. Langtree Surveying investigated the easements for us on Case Road and found that U-Haul has no right to use Case Road for access. The owners of the properties on Case Road said that we could use that access for emergency only, and they were not interested in increased traffic from U-Haul or anybody else. So U-Haul was only recently provided with this minimal road design, and we were not consulted in the design process. We told the city this is completely unsatisfactory because it's too narrow, the turning radii are too tight for the semi-trucks. The visibility, there's no visibility of the site, and it requires semi-trucks to turn out into oncoming traffic to exit the site.
So I'm going to have to ask you to conclude here pretty quickly.
Okay,
This is a 3-minute.
all right. So we call this a road to nowhere because it's just not providing any service to any of the folks out there. So your part-time engineer, city engineer, at one time, held up our project for years, informing us that his time was more valuable than ours, that he only worked for the city 2 days a week, that he usually talked with his traffic engineer Friday afternoon, and if either one of them weren't available, well, too bad. So the same engineer withheld site plan approval to us continuously until our traffic study was rewritten to say exactly what he wanted. So we've been at this for 4.5 years with the city to get to where we're at right now. It's been an excruciating process. The costs have overrun immensely. The carrying costs on the property alone are tremendous. They're huge. So I just want to say that, hey, we'll still have the offer to provide that access off of State Route 20, right in, right out, combined with the city, joint access, and we can save you that $701,000 budget.
Thank you,
Thank
Mr.
you
Wellner.
for
Thank
your
you.
time.
Okay, we're still in citizen comment period. So any other people wishing to make a comment here this evening, you're welcome to do so at this time. Okay. Well, we thank you, and we'll move on then to our next agenda item, which is item number 5, our consent agenda. Staff has listed the consent agenda items, all of which were included in the meeting packet. Any objections or changes or questions? This will be the time to ask that. If not, the consent agenda will be approved as presented. It looks like we have no requested changes, so we'll move on. Oh, I'm sorry.
No suggested changes, but I believe that Mr. Plumlee is online and part of this meeting, and a congratulations to him for accepting to be on the Planning Commission board. Thank you very much.
Thanks for reminding me, Mayor Pro Tem. There he is, Mr. Plumlee. Welcome to the Planning Commission, and thank you for volunteering.
Thank you, Mayor, Mayor Pro Tem, and Council.
We'll move on then to Mayor's comments. I'd like to start off with a shout out to our Public Works team. A huge thank you to the team. I received dozens of compliments from citizens expressing their thanks to our team for their hard work in clearing the snow from the streets. While we could not safely pick up all trash and recycling, we appreciate our citizens' understanding that all were better served by having garbage trucks off the streets in icy conditions. Garbage that was missed for pickup last week is being collected this week. Local events, thank you to the Oak Harbor Chamber for a terrific New Year's Eve fireworks. Great show, thank you very much. Yes. We have Vicki from the Chamber with us this evening. Thanks for joining us. Upcoming City Council meetings. City Council meetings are usually held the first and third Tuesdays of each month, and workshop meetings the fourth Wednesday. This schedule may change when noticed in advance and is reduced during June and July. The city calendar is available on our website. Our next regular council meeting will be January 18th. The mayor's comment box online is available on the city website via the search box or under How Do I, under the second column labeled Contact the City. Also, we're hiring. Find out more about available positions on our website, and that's www.oakharbor.org. So with that, I will turn to the City Council for council comments at this time. Councilor Hoffmeyer.
Thank you, Mayor. Throughout the campaign that led to me sitting here tonight, I knocked on over 7,000 doors. With the citizens of Oak Harbor, we talked about affordability, accountability, and really, how those two things impact the overall livability of Oak Harbor. And really, it was something much simpler, though, that kept coming up. Representation. The people of Oak Harbor are pleading to be heard, desperate for results, and I think with the 7 of us sitting here tonight, I believe that that's exactly what they are going to get. And other than that, gosh, I love Oak Harbor. Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Councilor Hoffmeyer. Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. I just wanted to respond to a couple of those public comments at the beginning of the meeting, the written ones involving the snow removal, because I think it's important for everybody to understand that where the city of Oak Harbor limits are, right? I noticed one of the addresses out on Williams Road, that's Island County. And the roads, I think, that were mentioned in there, Golf Course Road, West Beach Road, are all in Island County. And so nothing against Island County. Island County did a fantastic job, I think, also of snow removal, considering the number of roads we have, the extreme circumstances we were dealing with. That is certainly, for somebody who's lived here their entire life, we've had, 3 white Christmases, 1965, 2017, and this year. And, I can only think of a handful of times where we've had snow around for that long of a period, with temperatures dipping that deep. De-icer can only work to a certain level, and then we are stuck with sand, right? And so I just want to reach out to those folks, and number one, thank you for making the comments. Thank you for taking the time. This is what we want to hear. I would like to see, public comments every week. We'd love to see people out in the audience every week too, right? And we do want to hear that, but it is important for us also to make sure that we all understand where we're at there, right? That it sounds like possibly both of those folks are actually living in the county, and unfortunately the city's ability to plow takes place within the city. Thank you for the time comment.
Thank you, Councilor Wiesner. Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. I had a similar comment. That the first thing I wrote down was snow plowing outside of city limits, ? And I'm wondering, I know that the city provides some communication about which roads that we're plowing, and in what order, which is fantastic. But I'm wondering, for people who live outside of city limits, who are concerned about the conditions, can someone from the city kind of give us a rundown about the communication? Does Public Works communicate with the county? Is there any cooperation there? Is there any communication there? Do we know who these people could reach out to that are in the county if they're concerned? Just because they're not in city limits doesn't mean I don't want to address their concerns. I don't know if Blaine would be the person, or
Well, I see
Mick. Yeah,
I see Mick
Mick is
has
queuing up there.
put himself on camera, too.
What do you
Mick
got for
Monken
us?
is our interim Public Works Director, and then we got Blaine Oborn coming up, so. Staff?
Yeah, Mick, if you're ready to field that.
I'm ready to field that. To answer to them, when we do get contacted, the staff level that comes to us, we do notify the residents on that. They can go to the county's website, or they can go to the city's website and get that information. I don't know that we can get more communications than that. We do also put on our website, we update what streets have recently been plowed, so that people can at least see where we are on our list.
So, and to add to that, I know we'll pass information on to the county when we receive it, to the representatives there, and I know our representatives communicate with their representatives on a regular basis.
Okay. Any additional?
I do, but
Yeah.
I'll follow up with you. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Heisen. Mayor Pro Tem Munns.
Thank you, Mayor. I would ask that, I don't believe the post office that I could find has a website that puts out current information, but if they would let someone from the city know so we could put it on our site that we didn't have any mail delivery, and I don't think there was anyone else in town for a week. So it'd kind of be nice to know. I also found out the day before we got our mail that if you went down to the post office and asked, they would find your slot and hand you your mail if you were able to get to the post office, but didn't know that. Some exciting news. I think all council members got it. PSE continues to offer COVID bill assistance. They are proactively assisting customers affected by the pandemic with $2,500 on their past due bills. To date, they have contributed $567,000, $535 in COVID bill credits over 600 Island County customers. If you want to see if you qualify for assistance here anyway from the note you pressed here. They've also, their foundation has given a total of $29,500 to 4 Island County nonprofits during this time. Hub Youth Central After School Food Program, Island Senior Resources Essential Pandemic Services, Spin Cafe Basic Needs for COVID Recovery, for a Day Shelter, Oak Harbor Senior Center Foundation, Seniors In-Person Meal Program. They also awarded $17,500 in Island County to support housing and food security, Good Cheer Food Bank, Oak Harbor Senior Center, and Northwoodby Help House Readiness to Learn. So if you think sometimes the power company is just making money off of you or slow to repair things, they really have stepped up to the plate and are very active in helping our community. So I just wanted to pass the word and made sure that our finance committee knew that so that they could maybe communicate more with them on what we're trying to do to work in partnership. Also a question, I guess, for the mayor or Mr. Oborn, our TBD, our chairman is sitting right next to Miss, but it seems like we need to have a meeting of our TBD committee, which is all of council, and find out what's done, what's being planned, and if there's any other decisions. But Tara is our chairman, so I'd like to hear some update about that in the near future. And thank you to everyone for contributing to Help House. You made a lot of families happy by having food and a festive dinner. So thank you from the bottom of my heart. It's a nonprofit I've worked with since 1996. And there's most of the members on there have worked there a long time. So anyway, thank you very much, community, for that.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. We will follow up certainly on the TBD. And any other council comments at this point? Okay, not seeing any. I wanted to announce that at this time, Regarding Councilmember Mack, Councilmember Mack last week announced his resignation from council effective December 30, 2021. We thank him for his service to our city and community. We have placed the procedure for filling position number 3 on tonight's agenda for council approval. So we're wanting to move to fill that position. And so that windows, that comes here later, is that correct?
Right now.
Oh, it is right now. I'm sorry. Okay. Somebody else is doing that besides me, right? Okay, Mr. Oborn.
Good evening,
That's a
Mayor
good
and
thing.
City Council. I'm Blaine Oborn, Oak Harbor City Administrator, and I'm here to assist the council through the selection process. When we had the resignation effective December 30th, it started a 90-day clock. If we can go to the next slide, please. By RCW, Washington statute, you have 90 days to fill this position, which is March 30th, 2022. The proposal that I'll present here in the next slide is based upon past practices and the kind of the schedule that we did in the last 2 council members. Certainly the city council can approve the proposed schedule as presented or modify the process, because ultimately this is your process here. Just facilitating. Here's the timeline in the next slide here that we're proposing. So we're asking you to go ahead and approve. If you like this procedure, either go approve as presented or go ahead and modify it in tonight's. Then we'll start the advertising process and advertise a number of times in the local paper. And then list a due date for those interested in applying for the city council by January 31st, 2020 by 4:30 p.m. And then we're proposing that the council vet the applications on February 15th, and then we'll just modify the council workshop to accommodate and do an action item where you would do a interviewing and a closed session to make the determination. This schedule is pretty aggressive. We'll put you well ahead of the March 30th deadline. And then the following slide is acknowledgement that you want to approve the procedure as presented, or you're welcome to add any modifications you feel so needed. Yes. Can we go back one slide, please? There we go. This is also in your updated packet.
So I'd like to verify that we've gotten no input from the public.
That's correct, Mayor. We
Regarding this
received
item?
no
Okay.
public comment on this item.
Okay. To Councilor Hoffmeyer.
Yes, I would like to make a motion. I move that we approve the procedure for filling the city council vacancy position 3 as presented.
Second.
Okay, got a motion and a second to approve the proposed schedule for filling city council position 3 vacancy as presented. Motion made by Councilor Hoffmeyer, second by Mayor Pro Tem Munns. And we've got a question from Councilor Eisen.
Thank you, Mayor. Not a question, just a quick comment before we vote. This is a pretty aggressive schedule, which I appreciate. I think it's important to get a full council seated as quickly as possible, and I think, you know, it gives people almost a month to apply. So it's aggressive, but it's reasonable, and I appreciate the priority being put on getting a full council seated, because we're, you know, not in Kansas anymore, as Bill Hawkins said. So I thank you very much for getting this together so quickly, and looking forward to it. Thanks.
Thank you, Councilor Eisen. Any other questions or input regarding the motion? Okay, we ready to vote? All in favor, raise your hand or
Aye.
say aye. Any opposed? Looks like that passes unanimously. Thank you. You're on a roll, Mr. Hoffmeyer. First one, and it passes unanimously. Good. We will move on then at this time to section 8 of the agenda. And I know I moved something on this agenda, so you might need to remind me, but Section 8A is our ordinance. Okay, good. We'll do 8A at this time, which is ordinance number 1943, amending Oak Harbor Municipal Code 6.20.075, public nuisance, notice and order. So, Mr. Olborn, do we have our city attorney helping us on this one?
Yes, she should be here.
Hillary?
Miss Evans, are you here?
We can't hear you. Are you muted?
How about now?
Yes, now we can.
This is a pretty simple correction to an issue that I located in your code a while back when I started working with it. It makes a pretty simple correction for mandatory language to non-mandatory language, giving your code enforcement staff the ability to be more flexible in working with citizens. Because it's just one word, hopefully you all have it there in front of you, as I don't have the ability to show it on my screen at the moment. But I'm happy to answer any questions. It's pretty straightforward.
Okay, so before we do that, I want to make sure that we've gotten no input from the public on this issue.
That's correct,
Is that
Mayor.
right? Okay.
No input from the public.
So we'll turn to council. Any questions about this? What about, what are we asking for here? A motion? Okay. So, Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Yes, this is about as straightforward as we come. We're changing a word from shall to may. So I would like to move that we approve ordinance number 1943, amending Oak Harbor Municipal Code 6.20.075 regarding notice and order procedures.
Second.
Okay, so we've got a motion and second. The motion reads like the recommended action in the packet. Motion made by Councilor Wiesner, second by Mayor Pro Tem Munns. Seeing no questions or input, all in favor signify by raising your hand and or saying aye.
Aye.
Looks like that passes unanimously. Thank you, Council. So now we will turn to item number 11A at this time. Thank you for allowing us to move this. 11A is 2022 Parks. Proposed fee increases, informational, and I think for this we have our Parks Operation Manager, Don Crawford, to present this. Don, can you hear us out there?
Yes, I am sharing my screen right now. Can you see that?
No.
All right.
Not yet.
Let's try this.
Don, while you're loading that, I'll give a little bit of an introduction. We have two major changes. One is in the parks that we'll cover in detail, and then we have another major change that we want to probably discuss separately, which is the dredging fee. So we'll go ahead and lead. That's why we wanted this item in front of the master fee. So back to you, Don.
Okay, so just a little precursor before I get started on the presentation. What Parks is trying to do is identify places where we can be more self-sufficient. Obviously, there is very few parks and recreation organizations, you know, public sector that are fully self-sustaining, but from a personal level, I cannot see getting to the table with my brethren and sisters in the fire department and the police department and competing for money, because at the end of the day, first responders need our very best. And so what I'm trying to do is find, to use a football analogy, is 3 yards in a cloud of dust to find little places where I can tackle unfunded mandates that we have historically had in the parks. So what one of these is specifically is to increase the fee schedule for reservations. Now, I got some very good counsel from David Goldman in that he suggested strongly that I do a regional comp with all of our regional neighbors. And so I did 15 different communities, and I have a spreadsheet to end all spreadsheets. But essentially I went through and figured out what everyone else is doing and figured out what we could adopt here to generate a little more revenue without taking a big bite out of the public's pocket. So what we're trying to do with these proposed fee increases is to take care of more preventative maintenance and repairs in the restrooms, kitchens, pavilions, picnic areas, and other park assets such as benches and signs. So for example, we don't have it in our budget, but we need to seal all the kitchens in those brand new Windjammer Park kitchens. The floors need to be sealed. At some point, they're going to need to be painted. And so without asking for more funding, we can use more, if we increase the fees a little bit, we can use that funding to directly impact the quality of the asset. Address perpetual park vandalism. We continue to just get hammered with vandalism, and it all costs money. And then fund minor facility upgrades, toilets, hand blowers, sinks, light fixtures, things that wear out that need to be replaced. The current city parks reservation fees are limited to an entire day for a flat fee. So that means if you and your family want to rent one of the kitchens and you only want it for the birthday party from 2 to 6, you still pay for the entire day, which is great. That's a great bargain, but it doesn't allow the parks to utilize the space, the time that you're really not using it. Many of our comparison municipalities offer reservations by half a day or by 4-hour increments. Some have sliding rate scales based on the time of day or day of week, and then off-season versus prime season rates. Currently, our city park reservation fees, and you can see it on the screen, is typically $50 for the entire day. The pavilion, which is our space that we can use for concerts and performing, is $200 for an entire day. And then we've got the Fort Nugent and Flintstone, Smith Park's got a gazebo, and Catalina Park's got a gazebo. And these are our fees. We are not at this time talking about or proposing that we change any of the other fees for the parks. The 2022 proposed parks fees reflect average market rates and implement many comparison fee strategies. The result is increased revenue generation and provisions for discounted fees during off-season and non-premium dates and times. So this is our first part of the proposed fee increases. So from October to May, so you've got a 6 a.m. to 11 a.m. and then those are the fees. And then you have the afternoon. So it's a 4-hour segment of time, from 4 to 10 p.m. when the park closes. There's a rental rate. And then now we can have both in the morning and in the afternoon and an all-day rate fee reservation opportunity. So in essence, we're going to be able to rent to more people. In June through September, it's the same thing, 6 a.m. and 12 noon and then all day, but we've broken it up by Monday through Wednesday in the morning, and these are the rates on the screen. And then from noon to 10 p.m. Monday through Wednesday, there's it's a sliding scale for that part of the half day. And then for all day, Monday through Wednesday. In the far right-hand screen, those would be the new rates. This next screen is on the Thursday through Sunday, which are premium times for rentals. Again, still, most of the folks that we have rented to, residents and people that wish to rent are still only renting or only have half-day events that they want. And so Thursday through Sunday, although it's a premium time, we're not really increasing the rates that much. In the morning, it's a little less than in the afternoon from noon to 10. And then all day, if you rent it for all day, then that's the adjusted, the new rate. I went and I really squished down my Excel spreadsheet just to what we needed for this particular thing. But if you're interested, I can show you all of it if you want to reach out to me. So these are all of the comps that I reached out to, and here in the middle is the covered picnic rental by day or portion of the day, and this shows which of our comps rent for an entire day or part of a day. Then the sliding scale, if they have a sliding scale based on day of the week or time of day, and then last. And I want to be real careful in saying this. These are the average rates. Some of our comps, like, let's use Bellingham or Everett, for example, they are large cities and they have lots and lots of different options for rentals. So these are averages. Now, one thing I do want to mention I thought was interesting is Friday Harbor in San Juan County doesn't actually charge any money because they use it as a marketing for people to sail up there and spend the day. It's lovely to be them. But anyway, these are the average rates. So I based our market rate for what we're proposing based on the average rates that I found in our comps. Are there any questions?
Thank you, Don. I think before we turn to the council, I want to verify that we have not received anything.
That's correct, Mayor. No comments from the public on this item.
Okay. Then we're going to turn to council, and I saw Mr. Stuckey's hand up here. Councilor Stuckey.
That was quite the race there. I'm surprised I won that one. So this is coming from a guy who does events for a living, though granted, normally a specific event. I think people like simplicity, and you're talking about having the premium time. I'm take away the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But, between 6 to 11 a.m. as opposed to between noon and 10, a $5 difference. If you're going to have a birthday party event, I really don't see anyone doing the earlier time to save $5. Why not just have it be the bigger fee, the $5 in most cases, for all day and make it that simplistic option? I just don't see why there would be that small of a dollar difference.
Well, one of the things I was looking at was, first of all, we are in the process of implementing a new software called Civic Rec, and we've made some great strides on it, and it will allow us to very simply do this reservation system as opposed to what we've done in the past, which was a piece of paper and a pencil, and it was great for what it did, but it was very taxing on the folks in utilities, and so we had to do full days. With Civic Rec, we're going to be able to very simply make those reservations in those slots to allow people to make financial decisions based on when they want. And I know it's only $5 here and there on some of those days. My thing is, I want to make sure that the city provides opportunities for people of all financial situations to reserve space in the parks. And so that's what I did. I'm not married to this, and I am open to direction from the council. I have already had several staff members give me some guidance. And so I'm open to more of this. At the end of the day, I really am attacking this from a 3 yards in a cloud of dust. I don't want to, make big changes. I just want to make little changes that will help parks be a little more self-sufficient and not take any more money out of people's pocketbooks than absolutely necessary.
So I'm not going to throw this whole thing off because I know you put a lot of work into it, but I would definitely encourage you next year, taking a look at the data, to just go with the simplistic option and just have it be one cost for those days. I really don't think that if you have a birthday party of 20 people that the $5 is going to make any difference. Thank you.
Understood. And the good news is that we, by migrating to Civic Rec, we're going to be able to very easily provide data. We know how much we've been getting in reservations in the past for full days. And so we'll after 1 year, we'll be able to see if this bore fruit or not. And if what you're suggesting rings true, then I'll be back in front of you in a year saying, okay, we went crazy and it didn't really get us much more revenue. So let's go back to the way we were.
Thank you, Don. So just a moment here. We're doing council comments at this point.
She missed the public comment, so if you can allow the public comment in person.
Council, all right with that? Okay. Okay, go ahead, Vicki.
So I'm Vicki Graham, the Executive Director from the Oak Harbor Chamber of Commerce. Don, I understand the charges for like half days and all. I just need some clarification. So whenever we're doing community events for the city, we rent these amenities. Is this fee going to include, and as an example, I'll use July 4th. We rented the pavilion for $200. We didn't do anything except let people sit underneath it, but we had to rent it. That was one of the stipulations. So is this going to include nonprofits? Is there going to be a clause in there for nonprofits? Is there going to be a clause in there for, what we're doing for like July 4th or the big events for the city, is my question. Thank you.
My answer to that is, and this might sound like the chicken way out, I'm suggesting, this is what I'm suggesting to the city council, and we can make adjustments to that. The challenge is that most people that reserve these are nonprofits. I mean, the families aren't there to make money, and the Chamber of Commerce isn't there to make money. And so I really struggle with giving folks discounts, but I also understand that that parks should not cause more heartburn for other organizations trying to put on events in the city, and I would be very open to discussions on that.
Okay, so it sounds like in answer to your question, there's really no change proposed. It sounds to me like at this point, but from what our past has been, other than these fee changes. Did I answer that?
So that was my question. Do these fees take effect now? So we have to plan it into our budget, because our budget that we've already passed has been based on what was last year's. So like if we're gonna have it the 4 hours, and if I'm gonna have it for 2 days total, so now I need to pay it times 6, not just 1 day. So for budget purposes is the reason why I ask, is there gonna be a clause in there, or is this what we need to look forward to for our budgets?
So I guess I'm not prepared to try to answer that, other than to say, Don, it sounded to me like you're not proposing that we change anything regarding these fees except the dollar amount. In other words,
yeah,
if the Chamber of Commerce rented it for 3 days or 4 days on a weekend, these new dollar amounts would apply, and they would apply
Yes.
beginning today, or when this is passed.
Yes, sir.
Okay. But, I mean, it's still available, but obviously, yes, there could be some dollar changes that you would need to expect, it sounds like. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. So we're still council questions, input, so we'll go down that way. Councilor Heisen?
Thank you, Mayor. To clarify that question, there will be the 4-hour increments, or the 4 hours in the morning and then the 10 hours in the afternoon, or all day? Or if you wanted it all day, would you have to rent it in the morning and the afternoon? Or is there an all-day option?
Yes, there's an all-day option for each. So there's a morning, there's an afternoon, and there's an all-day. And then there is also Monday through Wednesday and Thursday through Sunday.
Okay, and I appreciate Councilmember Stuckey's comments. I wrote down the all-day was probably out of simplicity. That was the word I also wrote down. Because I appreciate the attempt at flexibility and giving people options. You know, 2 families could rent the same facility on the same day. But I'm worried about staff time. Who is going to be monitoring this? Who is going to be enforcing this? Because inevitably somebody's not going to be cleared out and packed up and out of there by 11 a.m. and the next party is going to be, you know, hovering. So how is that going to work in terms of staff time?
So and I've been having this discussion with my staff, because you're talking to the person who's responsible for this. The good news is on the reservation side, we have a more streamlined system. So that's going to on the paperwork administration side, we're going to be a lot easier to make this happen. And that's been the roadblock in the past. It was just too complicated to do morning and afternoons. So that's good. What we're going to have to do, and I have on there, is from in the morning until 11, and then from noon on, is that gives us an hour to get into those places and to do whatever cleanup that we need to do. And we are also going to be needing to work more closely with the folks that reserve these spaces to be better citizens. Not that they're not already. 90% of our folks leave them better than they found them, but just reiterate to them that we have groups coming in the afternoon, and we need to be good citizens. And so I needed to start somewhere, and so I think we can do this. It's going to cause us to be a little more thoughtful in how we schedule things, but we've already starting to make some plans on how we better utilize our labor to accommodate half days.
Thank you. I appreciate that, and I'm excited about the Civic Rec software, and I'm really excited about us being able to modernize and simplify. I have concerns.
If I can,
I have concerns.
Go ahead. I'm sorry.
No worries. I do have concerns, but like you said, we could try this out for a year, and if it ends up being a real headache, or if nobody's taking the morning option, if it's too difficult for staff to monitor and enforce, then we can always change it back, I guess. So if Parks is willing to put the effort into creating additional options, then then I'll support that for now. I do think that the fees for renting our facilities are really reasonable, and I think that you've really stuck to it's really actually quite a deal for what you're getting, and and I appreciate that you have to recoup your expenses, but I think that you're doing so in a really reasonable way. Beth just wrote down a question here. The signage and time when it is reserved. Right now, someone just physically goes and sticks a piece of paper up at the gazebo or the facility saying it's reserved on such and such a day. Is that still going to be the system? How will we let people know that they're reserved and when?
So that is still the system. We may have to, and this is something we need to decide in the next 60 days. If we're going to have to put a second acrylic box for the morning and for the afternoon. My plan long term, and it's kind of a chicken and egg thing, but long term, the price for doing Bluetooth enabled signage, that when you do reservations, that we could put those reservations on the screen and send it over and have them be on a small readout. That there's going to be some costs associated with that, but if we're bringing in the revenue, then that's something we can look at. And that's really what I'm trying to do, is I'm trying to improve is maintain the great facilities that we have, and two, provide enhancements to make the experience better. But we can't do that until we're generating the revenue. And so I'll be the first to admit that if it seems to end up being that it doesn't work, I'll be the first to admit that it was a bridge too far, and we'll retrench next year if we have to. But I'm just really dedicated to maintaining the good experiences and affordable experiences, but at the same time be a little more self-sufficient so that we can maintain these great assets.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie, it sounds like a lot of extra work, but if you and your staff are willing to give it a try, then I'm happy to support you. Thank you.
Councillor Wiesner. Thank you, Councillor.
Thank you, Mayor. And Don, thanks for taking all the time to do this. I really appreciate the fact that you're digging in, trying to figure out how to sustain, right, and how to self-fund. You and I know have talked, and Blaine, Minister Oborn and I have talked about, as we move forward, I think, personally, I know myself, I'm going to start looking more at maintenance costs when you guys come before us and, ask to build something. We're going to be talking about the ongoing maintenance costs, because let's face it, we built a new park, and we probably didn't sit down and overlook at the overall maintenance of the larger park, the additional landscaping, et cetera, and now we're paying the price. Now, with that said, again, thanks for all the hard work. I just see a whole lot of issues here. Like the first one, what if I want to reserve Kitchen A in Windjammer Park from 10 to 2? Which fee do I pay? Do I pay the 6 to 11 fee, or do I pay the noon to 10 fee?
You pay the all-day fee.
I pay the all-day fee. Okay.
Yeah, but if you're taking time in both the morning and in the afternoon, it's the all-day fee.
Okay. I guess I'm going to question the fairness of that, right? And then I'm going to question, Flintstone Park. I mean, we're not only increasing some fees here, we're adding a bunch of fees, right? We're adding fees for Fort Nugent Park shelters, the Flintstone Park shelters.
Oh, no, they've always had reservation fees.
Okay, well,
those are not new.
What are those then the same fee? Because I'm not seeing anything redacted here or anything underlined or any changes. Are those the same fees?
Those were $50 for an entire day at Fort Nugent.
Okay, and now it's $50 for Monday through Wednesday from 6 to 11. And it's $60 for Monday through Wednesday, noon to 10. So I guess the concern I have is I don't have all the information in front of me that I need. What are we raising the fees? I don't have the old fees in front of me. I have a new proposed fee schedule. You have some items crossed out at the top showing the fees changing from $50 down to $35. You've got a few, lined out there at the beginning of the Schedule F. But then the rest of the Schedule F, what are we changing from? I don't know that that's represented here, is it?
Okay, I just reshared my screen. So currently, the city parks reservation fees are below. This is what they've been for a little while.
Okay. Sure would have,
And that's for all day.
I'm just gonna say, it sure would have been nice to have that in this agenda package, right? Because,
It should be in there, crossed out with the ones that change.
Wh-
The old rate should be in there. There's two versions.
Yeah.
We have the clean version and the edited version. So if you look on the edited version. around
anybody else
page
seeing the edited,
101.
anybody else seeing the edited version in the package?
Yes, and some of the fields have the old fee, but not all of them do.
Exactly. All I'm seeing here, and again, I just want to make sure I have this straight, right? Because again, this is another fee we're passing on to the people in our community during some times that are pretty tough. And I agree, $5 here, $5 there doesn't seem a lot, but it is, right? If you're going to put on the Christmas party for your kid and, it's the last $50 you got, it makes a difference. So I'm seeing on page 137 where we start with the Schedule F. We've got a couple of items at the beginning of that page where we've made the changes, but then the rest of the pages are just the new fee schedule. Am I missing something here where we've?
They're all underlined because they're all new.
Yeah, that's what,
Yeah.
you see, that's where my
That's
confusion
all.
is, right? You've got them all underlined, so it's telling me these are all new fees. They're not changes to existing fees, so I guess I'm just really concerned about, if I'm not understanding this, how's the public gonna understand this, right?
Well, I think since he materially changed it, the other changes are really easy to see, the housekeeping ones that I'll talk about. But yeah, so he has them listed here. Certainly, if you want to kick this one, certainly we need to deal with the whole other increases. So certainly, we know that this was a big change, and that's why we have as an issue. So
Yeah, I think there's a little more review for us to do here. And then I guess I have some concerns, like for the porter service, for example. After the event's over, how are we going to collect this? I mean, right? The event's over. Little Tommy's birthday party's over. The place was left a mess. We've got $65 an hour, 2-hour minimum. We have a $130 minimum if we go down there and pick up one piece of trash. I'm sure, I'm exaggerating here, right? I'm sure we're not going to do that, right? But if we go down and pick up one piece of trash, two pieces of trash, we're charging Timmy's mom $130. How are we going to collect that?
Councilman, the porter fee, real simply, is when you plan ahead for an event and that you're going to need porter fees. You would pay that in advance. Like I said during my presentation, 90% of people are good citizens. They leave things better than they found them. But we do get, occasionally, we get events where people say, hey, how much would it cost to have somebody come by and pick this up if I can't get it done? And that's what that represents. That's not a retroactive punishment, punitive thing. That's a beforehand arrangement.
Okay, so let's take the 4th of July, for example. I'm going to speak up for Vicky here. How many porters do we need? How many hours do we need them? What's going to be the cost of that? Because you do have some servicing, I'm sure, during the 4th of July event. You're down there servicing the trash receptacles. You're policing litter during the event. What's that dollar figure? What would we need for the 4th of July to cover that porter service?
Those are good questions, but typically, City Hall works with, and this is, I'm speaking just from my little bit of knowledge. Historically, City Hall, the city administrator, will work with those big event coordinators, and they will arrive at a fee. This would not, these fees are not really supposed to circumvent existing systems for large citywide events. They're really for individuals and small groups that are doing small events in the parks. So the stuff with the like what Vicky does with the Chamber of Commerce, that has in Hydros for Heroes, 4th of July, all of that, that's typically been done, and the marathon has been done and administered through the city hall, and they figure out all those costs individually, and this fee schedule isn't typically part of that anyway.
Okay. All right, well, I appreciate that. I guess I just have to think that through a little bit, right? Because again, it's all about fairness or you know, I mean, so I guess if there is a fee associated with that, but those fees are not a charge to certain events, then I think we need to then be talking about having those fees waived in writing, you know, by administration, and we need to have some sort of process in place to request the waiver from those fees, wouldn't we? Because, I mean, if we're doing that for certain events, what about other events that come on that aren't traditional events? Shouldn't they have the same ability to request the same waivers?
So we have a special event process that for instance, the 4th of July goes through in advance, and that is done often here through city administration.
Yeah.
But I think what Don is saying is that's quite a bit different than the normal weekend use of a facility by a family. We have a special event process that ties into these fees, that the whether it's the chamber or the marathon works with our administration and covers. So that.
Hey, Mayor?
Yes.
So I can speak to this. So if you're, and there's a certain number of little triggers that kick you into special event status. If your event has over 50 people, if your event is going to do certain things, if you're going to have loudspeakers, if you're going to serve alcohol, if it's going to be outside of the normal hours, and there's several of those triggers. Any of those triggers kicks you into special event status, and it's very organized and very regulated. And so all of that stuff happens at City Hall, and I'm assuming that Michaela Finkel is for right now, she's taking responsibility. So what you have in front of you for the fee schedule is the day-to-day, hey, I've got some buddies and we want to reserve the kitchen for an event we're having. Here's the fees you pay. It's not meant to be for the big stuff, and anybody is eligible for special events. All they have to do is, if they're going to have more than 50 people and they're going to have a number of other triggers, then they automatically get steered towards the special events. And there is a very organized system that involves every one of the divisions and departments in the city that have to sign off. And so that's really the difference between the two. And I think that settles some of the concerns in that special events are different than the common everyday rental schedule.
Yeah, thanks for that detailed explanation, Don. I guess the last question I have, when it comes to our smaller parks like Flintstone Park and Smith Park, we've got fees here for reserving the shelter or the gazebo, but often we get events that rent that entire park. Is that just the same fee as renting the gazebo, or how does that work?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna ask Councilor Evans to I'll give you an opportunity, and then we're gonna take a short break. Yeah, so we'll turn to you now, Councilor Evans.
I'm just curious how much revenue was generated by these fees last year, and how much is the anticipated increase in the revenue with these fee changes? What kind of an impact is it going to have on the parks budget?
So For 2021, and granted, it's a COVID year, and I've only been here since May, we generated a little, estimated about $10,000 for in our current rate schedule. What I am trying to do in the first year of this new rate schedule is try to double that. And my goal long term is to generate about 30,000 a year, which is about what we have come upon as the amount to do preventative maintenance and repairs to the assets that we're reserving.
Thank you.
Okay, so we've had a request to take a short break. And then we'll come back and answer some more questions. So we're going to take about a 5-minute break here at 7:50. We'll come back at 7:55. Okay? Of January 4th, regular meeting, Oak Harbor City Council, and we were still in our question and answer period for the council regarding item number 11A, and it's the parks, proposed parks fee schedule changes. Councilor Hoffmeyer.
Thank you, Mayor. I only had a few things to add on this. First, the Parks Director is obviously the expert in this subject matter. But even amongst council, there was quite a few questions on what exactly this entailed. And, we started out this agenda item like we do all agenda items, with public comment. Pretty hard to expect there to be much public input on something when they don't really know what it entails yet. And, being that this is something that we're not really up against a deadline on, I think it would behoove us to put it off until the next meeting or a month or whatever that is, so we can get some of that public input and maybe get a few more of these questions answered as well. But very informative, and the rates do look fairly reasonable.
Okay, so I know I assumed that you were done. Councilor Evans, did you have any other input or questions?
Actually, I do have one more question, if I could, for Don. How many reservations did we have last year?
I don't have that information. That's one of the shortcomings with our current system. By adopting the Civic Rec, we'll be able to put together quite a database, and I'll be able to give you all that kind of information.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so we've heard that there are some questions about this, so I don't know how council, we were thinking that council might, did you want to say something, Mr. Olborn?
No, I will give, when we go on to item 8B, then I'll give the council the option of removing this from the other fee increases proposed.
Okay, so I think then that was an informational section of our agenda only, so we'll go then back to item number 8B at this time. And item number 8B is the Resolution 21-01, amending the master fee schedule. So I'll then call on our city administrator, Mr. Olborn, to present this.
All right, good evening, Mayor and City Council. I'm Blaine Olborn, Oak Harbor City Administrator. The other major change, I mentioned that there was two parks in Marina, and we have our Harbor Master, Chris Sublett, here to kind of talk about the dredging fee. This one's not quite as new. It's been talked about, but I think we wanted to make sure we updated, especially to the new council members, to give you an opportunity to talk about the major change proposed in this, and then I'll talk about the other housekeeping items. But that, I think, Harbor Master has a presentation to present, so.
Good evening, Mayor, City Council members, and welcome new council members. Tonight, we're here to talk about a marina dredge fee increase. And this is something that we've done over 2 or 3 times in relation to the bond that was just refinanced. Just to give you some marina background, most of you know this, but just to catch everyone up, we have approximately 420 slips. We have covered and uncovered slips, and they range in size from about 24 to 70 feet. The average size of the boat in the marina is 32 feet. And important factor in this presentation is realizing that we are an enterprise fund. And what that means is that we are solely reliant on the funds that we generate at the marina. We do not receive any general funds or taxpayer funds, those sorts of things. So the marina needs to be dredged every 10 to 15 years. Our last dredging effort was in 2010, and at that time we only dredged about half of the marina. So recently, well, back in July, we actually ran around the marina with our boat and did some depth soundings. The marina was dredged to what we call -12, which means at zero tide there would be 12 feet of water. So you can see that there's a 10 in there and a 7 and an 8 and an 8 and an 8, but there's also some 5s and 6s. Today, boats are getting much, much bigger and draw much more water. So it's not uncommon to have sailboats in the marina that draw 6, 7, 8 feet of water. So we're kind of getting into a crucial time with needing to dredge again. So just a little background on the dredge fee. It was implemented to repay the bond for the 2010 dredge project. Originally, we charged $1.15 per foot per month, but then we reduced it to $1.03 per foot per month because we didn't dredge the full marina, only about half of it. And we generated about $143,000 a year with it. The dredge fee is one of the line items that makes up your mortgage bill. And your mortgage bill consists of mortgage, then there's tax on the mortgage, the dredge fee, which we're talking about tonight, and then tax on the dredge fee, and then an environmental compliance fee. The original dredge bond was set for 20 years, and there were approximately 10 years left when we refinanced it recently. And it's important to note that this is only charged to the mortgage tenants, not to our storage tenants or to our fence line people either. As just going back a little bit, some of the options, the three options that we had for refinancing the dredge bond, we had a level savings. It would be a 10-year bond, and it would reduce the amount of the annual payments to provide a savings each year. Option B was consistent payments. Again, this was another 10-year one, and this would keep the payments at the current level and shorten the final maturity, realizing nearly all savings in year 10. And in option C, and this is the one we selected, accelerated payments, and it's a 5-year bond, and it would increase the payments for the first 5 years to pay off the debt in half the time, and it provided the greatest savings over all three options. So we did vet this with the Marine Advisory Committee at several meetings, and they came to a conclusion and recommended option C based on the fact that we need to dredge in the near future. And they also made dredging a priority, and that's something that we started talking about in more earnest in 2021, and something I'll be talking to the council about in the coming months. And they're big concerned with choosing option C. What they liked the best was the amount of savings it provided, but also that it allowed for us to start the new dredge project sooner and get a new bond if we need to do that. One thing that we need to take in mind, and that I'll be talking to you about, is that it takes about 1.5 to 2 years, maybe even 3 years, from the time we actually start the dredge project and it's approved by the city council until the time we actually start digging. So, on July 13, 2021, the Marine Advisory Committee made a formal recommendation for option C, and then we brought that to the council, and the council approved that. Option C saves us about $194,000 over the course of this refinance bond. And the unfortunate thing is that to pay it off, because it is a shorter duration, we're going to need to increase the dredge fee. So a little history about our marina rates. Our marina rates are based on an average of the marinas around us, Cap Santa, Anacortes, LaConner, and Everett. And then we bring Des Moines into the picture too, because they're a city marina as well. And we try to average, or we try to target about 80% of the average for the same size slips at these marinas. We had our last rate increase was April 1st, 2021. And then we have another rate increase scheduled to take effect April 1st, 2022 for 3%. This is totally different than the dredge fee increase. This is just an increase on the mortgage piece of it. So over the next 4 years, we're looking at having to raise the dredge fee each year over the next 4 years to pay for the new bond. Our current dredge fee rate is $1.03 per foot per month. And on the average size boat of 32 feet, that equals $37.19. And again, we generate about $143,000 a year on the dredge fee. In 2022, we'd like to increase the dredge fee to $1.31 per foot, which in comparison will bring that 32-foot boat to $47.39, and it'll generate an additional $39,250. In subsequent years, these are the amounts that we're looking at, but we'll be back to you with final amounts. Be happy to answer any questions. Thank you for your time.
So we'll turn to council then at this point for questions about the marina. I'm sorry. We haven't gotten any kind of public comment, no.
No, Mayor, we received no public comment on this
Yeah,
item.
Yeah. Okay, Counselor Stuckey.
It might have been your slides, and I may have missed it, so I apologize. When are we talking about doing the dredging?
So when are we talking about doing the dredging? So in the upcoming months, I'm going to be coming to the City Council through a workshop and then a City Council meeting to get formal approval to start the dredging process. So we'll start that as soon as we can, and that starts with hiring a marine engineering firm, and they do all kinds of permitting and planning. And then in about 2 to 3 years, we'll probably actually start digging. So in short, we'll start the dredging process very soon. In long, the actual dredging or digging is 2 to 3 years out still.
Okay, that helps. I understand it takes a long time. If I had a boat, I wouldn't want to keep hearing it's going to happen one day. It's going to happen one day. It's going to happen one day. And you keep increasing. And when's it going to happen? So I do understand. I know it's a long process, and thank you for answering the question.
Sure.
Any other council questions? Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Good evening, Mr. Sublette. I think you had at least 1 or 2 phone calls trying to get through from my husband, so I'll let him take care of that. I'm not asking his questions. So it sounded really good when I got to read the verbiage on the bills that went out today to all your mortgage people, that they were saving altogether by doing this system $194,000 in savings. But the reality is there's no savings to them. So you might want to work on the verbiage again or something, because you build them up and say, hey, by paying this off, the marina is going to save this much money, and then you tell them how much it's going to cost. So has anyone vacated their slip yet, knowing that this increase was going to come, because that came out in council, a couple of months ago?
No. In fact, the only call I received on this, or only person I've talked to about it, and I talk to a lot of people every day, is Mr. Munns on this one.
Oh, okay.
Everybody else, nobody has called, nobody has said a word about it. And we did issue a newsletter article. And if this is approved tomorrow, we will be mailing a letter out to all of our new tenants with some clearer and better verbiage as compared to that newsletter article.
Okay, thank you. The other question
Sure.
is we start the process probably tomorrow, as soon as you can, get people to start answering their phones and applying for permits and the engineer and all of this. Can you, with the rates right now, with the bonds, can we lock into one and then start it when we start the dredging, the payment? Or is that, I don't know about bonds. Can we lock into one and then wait until we start using the money, or I'm not sure?
I would have to defer that to Mr. Goldman. He probably can better answer that than I can. But just to clarify, we won't start the actual dredge process, and that's hiring the engineers and all of that stuff until we go through the workshop and council process. So it won't start tomorrow per se, but the presentation prep and all of that stuff will start tomorrow. But as far as the bond goes, I'd have to defer to Mr. Goldman because I'm just not sure on that one.
Thank you, Chris. Thank you for that question. Our financial advisor would probably tell us that we would have to have a better idea of what the cost would be before we went ahead and floated a bond. And that would entail us going through the engineering process, the design process, over the next 12 months to 18 months, Chris,
yes,
to get a better handle on what those costs would be. It would be ideal, of course, to lock in low rates now before they went up. But unfortunately, just due to the way these things go, that would probably be what would be advised to do.
Okay, I just wanted to check, because if people are going to stick it out, it goes up quite a bit, no matter what size your boat is. you know, from 137 to 2 something, and then, I mean, it doubles or triples by the end of the 5th year, that hopefully they won't be paying that high cost to continue with the new dredging. I mean, everybody knows how important it is, and sometimes they think they'll go someplace else because it'll be cheaper, when in reality, it's not a lot cheaper. So I just thought I'd toss it out. So thank you very much, both of you.
Sure.
Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. I always marvel at the depth chart when you show it to us, knowing how low the tides get there. In fact, just last night it was a negative 3.6 tide, and Sunday night it was negative 3.7. So a lot of the boats that are sitting in 5 or 6 feet of water were in the mud. They were in the mud. And I sure hate to see that price increase chart, that it's painful, but the truth is, if we don't do this soon, we won't have a usable marina at all. So, you know, nobody's real happy about the expense, but being an enterprise fund, we are in a bit of a pickle. So I appreciate the advisory committee and your work, Mr. Sublette. And I will move to approve resolution number 22-01, amending schedules A through F, and addendums 1 and 2 of the master fee schedule.
Second?
Second, yeah.
Okay, so we've got a motion and a second. I believe that motion reads like the suggested motion in the packet. That was made by Councilor Heisen. The second was made by Mayor Pro Tem Munns. And I see we have one question at least. Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Well, before we proceed with that motion, I want to make sure we point out that that would be making a motion also on moving the park fees forward. So after I get done with my other comments, I'll make a friendly amendment to your motion. But the other thing that this does include, and I know you guys are probably tired of hearing me every year with this, but we have a law on the books in the city of Oak Harbor that mandates adjustment to our development services fees on an annual basis based upon cost of living, I'm assuming. I know it's just a few dollars, but you know, you look at some of these fees and they really add up, and we continually talk about housing affordability, housing affordability, housing affordability. Well, how are we ever going to have housing affordability if we continue every year raising the fees to build a house? And we're raising them not because we necessarily need to, not because we have additional labor. In fact, if anything, we're going to have less labor involved in processing fees as we get our technology together, right? And that's designed to streamline. But we're just raising them because, right? We're just raising them because of the cost of living, and we're raising them because we passed a law upon ourselves forcing to do so. So we've taken the authority out of this body's hands when it comes to these development services fees. And so here just a minute ago, we talked about taxing the people of Oak Harbor to help create more affordable housing, and then we're going to turn around and raise the development fees to boot. So I bring it up every year. I am once again this year going to ask for the administration to consider looking at a change in that ordinance, bringing it back before this body. We have no choice other than to implement these changes tonight as far as the development services fee. From what I understand, it's a law. We don't get a choice in this. But I'm going to ask that the administration bring back to this body a ordinance that gives us the ability to remove those mandated changes and gives this council the ability to each year look at those costs of development and be able to react to what's going on in the economy and what's going on with our affordable housing and what's going on with our development services budget and what's going on with our streamlined processes, where hopefully we can save some money in that department, and not continue to pass those costs on to our builders who turn around and pass those on to the people who buy the houses. So we can either talk about it or we can do something about it. So with that said, obviously there's nothing I can do about the development service fees, but I would like to make a friendly amendment to the motion on the floor, removing the fee increase for the park services, at least tabling those fees till a later date, and approving the moorage fee increase, as well as the development service fee increases. Thank you.
So the friendly amendment is for Schedule A through E.
It's removing Schedule F.
Right. Good catch, thank you.
I will second his friendly amendment.
Okay, so first we'll vote on the friendly amendment motion, which is to remove Schedule F. Any questions about that? Seeing none, that motion was made by Councilor Wiesner and seconded by Mayor Pro Tem Munns to remove Section F from the original motion. All in favor signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously. So now we'll go back to the original motion, which was to approve resolution number 2201, amending, and the original motion said schedules A through F and addendums 1 and 2 of the master fee schedule. With that friendly amendment, F drops off, so it's A through, what is that, E? A through E. Any questions about it, what you're voting on now? Okay, seeing none. All in favor of that motion signify by raising your hand.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that passes unanimously. Okay, well, thank you. That, yes.
With the friendly amendment, is there a time limit or something that you can foresee, Mr. Oburn, as far as how to reverse that so that we can give some sort of, Blake, in other words, put our money where our mouth is, or take the money out of our mouth to help some of the builders? I mean, sometimes we waived a fee, we had a moratorium on it to help increase, and that was back in, 2018, and probably 5 years before that and 3 years after that, because the housing market was down so much. And this when Mr. Powers was here, and so we had a moratorium on a certain fee, and they didn't pay it until the very end instead of at the beginning. And so I'm sure something can be done legally or whatever, but he's right. If we want to help affordable housing, some of these fees need to be reduced or whatever. I would like to see some suggestions, but not in June. I would hope it could be put on the calendar. I don't expect it on the 18th, but I meant sometime fairly soon. Do you think that's possible, sir?
I guess my question back to council is that direction from the council for staff to evaluate the building fee, which would probably encompass having a consultant, instead of looking at it as auto increase, looking at it and compare it to actual cost or estimated cost, because that's what the fee is supposed to be. And the council can certainly make a policy decision on how they want to do that. So I guess that's the question I have to council, and if that's the direction, council will, staff will proceed in that direction.
City Attorney, do we need a formal motion for that, or can we do verbal head nods that we would like to go in this direction?
Unfortunately, I didn't hear what Mr. Oburn said, but I'm assuming the question is, can you just ask staff to go a certain direction in terms of getting back to you? And I think a verbal is sufficient for that kind of directive.
All right, I would like to, I guess each council can answer for themselves, but please, I would like them to seriously look at this and get back to us in a reasonable amount of time, but not have it go till summer.
So I would suggest that we could do something certainly within 2 to 3 months.
Oh, the initial discussion, yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, probably in a month,
Yeah.
but I don't want to commit to that completely. We started off with Councilor Wiesner asking about the automatic increase and that being eliminated. I think we could do that rather quickly. And I don't think we need a consultant to do that, to tell you the truth. So if that's what we're going to do, that's one thing. If we're going to do something different, as Mayor Pro Tem has mentioned, that's a total different road to go down. And I would say that would take 3 to 6 months. So, I agree. Will, administration can go after this, and I'd first recommend that we start with Councilor Wiesner's suggestion. What does it take to change that automatic increase? If you're happy with that, that's what we'll do first. Okay? Okay, good. Got a plan. We will move on then to item number, I think we're going to 10 now. That was 8B, we'll go to 10. And this is the council selection of mayor pro tem for. Every 2 years, the council elects from among themselves a mayor pro tem who will serve in the absence of the mayor when needed. I will open the floor to nominations from the council. Council members may nominate themselves. Oh. Okay, council members for nominations.
Mayor?
Councilor Hoffmeyer?
Yes, I would like to make a motion.
So are we moving or are we making nominations?
I would like to make a motion.
A motion?
Yes.
Well, I can't tell you not to make a motion.
Thank you. I move that Councilor Wiesner be elected mayor pro tem.
Okay, so we have a motion. Councilor Wiesner be elected mayor pro tem. Is there a second? There's a question. Councilor Heisen.
Well, I'm curious of whether or not Councilmember Wiesner is interested in being mayor pro tem, and how our current mayor pro tem, like, are you interested in maintaining? Traditionally, it's the most senior member of the council, but I mean, that's not a rule, that's just the tradition.
I would be happy to only have 2 more years to my term. I think I've done a good job. I've tried to keep people informed, and I'd like to finish out 2 more years, but it's council's decision, you know. It's among us, and we're friends, so there you go.
Did you want me to answer? I would serve at the council's pleasure. I would consider it an honor. It's not something that I'm seeking, but certainly I would serve at the council's pleasure.
Councilor Evans?
So since we have a motion on the floor, am I able to make a nomination?
There's no second.
There's no second at this
Okay,
point.
then
so,
I'd like to
yeah.
nominate Mayor Pro Tem Beth Munns.
Okay, so you're nominating Mayor Pro Tem Beth Munns, okay? So the motion dies for lack of a second at this point. And so are there any other nominations?
May I ask a question?
Yes.
Procedurally, if both are nominated and both are seconded, can we hear a little bit of their pitch, so to speak? Hear their argument for the position? Or is it just a strict vote?
We don't have a lot of history on this, to my knowledge, and that's partly up to the council too, I would imagine. So I had asked initially about nominations. We got a motion. It didn't get a second. We now have a nomination, the way I understand it, of Mayor Pro Tem. And so council can ask for what they want, in my estimation. But did you have a question, Mr.? I don't have an answer for you quite yet.
So, you know, with the motion, I was hoping at least for a second so we could get to the discussion stage. The motion was with zero disrespect to Mayor Pro Tem Munns or to tradition. You know, Mayor Pro Tem Pagao sat in that role for many, many years. I just, personally, I feel that that's a position that should switch every couple of years. I think with where we're at in the year 2022, I think that helps staff, you know, having multiple inputs. And that's where that was coming from. And I mean, the motion died, I guess, but I would nominate Councilor Wiesner to be pro tem.
Okay. So at this point, we have two nominations. We have a nomination for Mayor Pro Tem Munns, and we have a nomination for Councilor Jim Wiesner. So if council, it's up to council.
I would like
Councilor
to,
Stuckey.
I personally would like to hear just a 2-minute elevator pitch, if we will, because going to this, without having a candidate already pre-selected in my mind, I would like to hear the opinion of each one on why they think they're good for the position.
All right. I think I've been ultra conscientious to make every meeting, even when I've traveled. The mayor and I have a pretty good record until the accident of meeting once a week or every other week. He's given me projects, like when we were trying to see, it was proposed at one time that we have one staff member solely devoted to the TBD. And he didn't have time to research it, and I did the research through AWC and my contacts with other cities. So I take that very seriously to get that kind of stuff done. Because I had been on AWC board for 13 years, and now I'm still on the MRSC board. Anytime I run across something in either one of their newsletters that pertains to a department head, or I think council would benefit from it, we get so many emails, most of the time you just go, boop, and you throw it out. And I try to cut and paste and say, hey, you may want to look up this article or see. It's just like the PSE today. I don't know how many people got it. I got it, but it doesn't say who all is on the list. And I just try to be helpful, keep my ear to the ground on what's happening in the community, but also if there's changes in legislature. This affordable housing thing, when I first heard from Eric Mann and Habitat for Humanity, I sent stuff to Mr. Blaine O'Byrne and the mayor, but nothing was done and I didn't push it. When it came up again, I had questions and contact with Commissioner Sinclair, and I started nosing around and checking, and I inundated Mr. O'Byrne with, hey, what are we going to do about this? Is there a discussion we can have, whatever? And he jumped on, and then he started making contact with other people so we could have a reasonable informational discussion. So I've worked hard at it, but if you want to make a different direction, okay, but I would like to finish off my term to do it 2 more years. So there you go. Thank you very much for your time.
Yeah, and thank you for that question, Councilor Stuckey. I don't know that I have an elevator speech for you, but obviously it's at the pleasure of the council, right? It's been my pleasure and privilege to serve on this council in my hometown. I think everybody knows I'm passionate about certain things, and the community is one of them. And whether or not the council sees fit for that change in position or not, either way, I'm going to continue to do what I can that I feel is right for my community, just like Mayor Pro Tem is. It certainly is a privilege to serve with everybody here, and it would also obviously be a privilege to learn more about running meetings and et cetera. And so I do see where Councilor Hoffmeyer is coming from, that by having different members serve in different capacities, we all have that opportunity. But at the same time, this would certainly be council's decision, and I serve at your pleasure and the pleasure of the constituents here in the community, and in whatever capacity I serve in, I do consider it an honor and a pleasure. Thank you.
Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. I have some thoughts, and I agree with Councilmember Hoffmeyer that personally I would like to see the Mayor Pro Tem position rotated a little bit more, maybe every 2 or 3 years. I've got another 2 years on my term, and I would like a shot at it as well. But I also sit here today, we have major turnover, biggest turnover in this election, and so there's also a really big part of me that is kind of craving some stability and thinking, well, if we continue to let Mayor Pro Tem Munns, who's done a phenomenal job, do the position for another year to kind of ease a new council into this term. So I'm kind of torn between what's familiar and what's comfortable and what's stable, and giving other council people a shot. So tonight, I think tonight I'll be supporting Mayor Pro Tem Munns as the Mayor Pro Tem for this upcoming year, only because there is such a big turnover currently with council, and I think that we may have some growing pains, and I think that stability will serve us in the next year. So that's where my thought process is. Thanks.
Anyone else have questions or input, or should we just go to a vote? We have two that have been nominated, and we could vote on those in favor, if you're ready. Are you ready to vote? Okay, then I'm going to ask for a vote of all those in favor of our current Mayor Pro Tem Munns to continue. So we have 4, 5, 6, that passes. Okay, unanimously. Okay, great. We are off on to our next item.
Thank you, everyone. I hope to provide the best I can, and thank you very much for the comments. I appreciate it any time. Or hit me over the head with the 2x4 and say, hey, look, would you wake up and look at it this way? I will be happy
We got that
to do
recorded?
that too. Yeah, just not too hard. I'm already short, okay?
Pretty sure the chief of police isn't close by.
We are, I'm looking at 27 minutes until our meeting is scheduled to be over based on our rules, where our rules are that our meeting will end at 9 o'clock. I did talk to the clerk about the need for a potential motion to go at least slightly beyond 9, because we anticipate, we're going to executive session, we anticipate a half an hour. So if we're in executive session for a half an hour, we're going to be beyond our 9 o'clock. We'll be 4 minutes past. So I would entertain a motion to suspend our rules. Mayor Pro Tem?
I move that we suspend our rules and go to 9:30. Does that seem enough? 9:30, please.
Second.
Got a motion second to extend the council rules and extend this evening's meeting until 9:30. That motion is made by Mayor Pro Tem Munns and seconded by Councilor Hoffmeyer. All in favor? Raise your hand, say aye. Looks like that passes unanimously. Okay, so it's my understanding that for executive session, we're going to stay here. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, yeah. Oh, I'm sorry. Did I miss something? Oh. Yeah, I'm sorry. I got way beyond myself, didn't I? Yeah, we're going to need that a half an hour for darn sure now. 10D, help me, where are we?
Discussion of sales.
Resolution 20, oh, no. Okay, discussion of sales and use tax for affordable housing and letter of support. Mr. Olborn?
Okay, if we could bring up the slide, please. Okay, go on to the next slide. So just a little quick brief recap here. We talked about the previous 2019.
Blaine, could you remove your
Yeah.
mask? You're too hard to understand.
Sorry, try. Next one, we talked about the previous resolution in 2019 in our earlier discussion at the beginning of the meeting. We talked about the county question and answers, Iden County's Habitat for Humanity's request, and the draft letter is in your packet of a letter of support, and then we provided some information on area sales tax. If you can go to the next slide, please. And then we talked about the various rates. Next slide, please. And then right now, then we recap a little bit here. The county Board of Commissioners are going to do a public hearing on January 18th. And city can write a letter of support that could be read into that if the city so desires. Another option is the city to consider its own use and sales tax ahead of the city or after if the county does not act, or certainly the council can do nothing. So next slide is, the recommendation is to authorize the mayor to send a letter of support of a citywide sales tax and use tax for affordable housing to Island County commissioners.
He said citywide, but he meant to read it countywide.
Countywide, oops, I have a typo.
Countywide sales.
Yes.
So, any input from the public about this, Julie?
No, Mayor, we received no input from the public.
Thank you. We'll turn to council for Councilor Evans.
I know I already said it once, but, you know, I really have a problem with dipping into people's pockets for something that we don't have a plan on and without their vote. I mean, when you read the RCW for this specific situation, the first paragraph states that you can do this with a vote. Well, now they've made an amendment to it, so the second paragraph says, or you can skip the vote. That doesn't sit right with me or the people that voted for me, so I'm encouraging us to not send a letter championing a hope and dream tax. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Wiesner?
Thank you, Mayor. You know, by the city, you know, sending a letter of support of this without having public comment or public input or a public hearing or input from our constituents and the people in the city, I almost feel like we're speaking out of turn. Where we're basically saying that the citizens of our community are in favor of this, and I don't know that we have enough information to say that. I'd sure like to see us put our money elsewhere as far as affordable housing, rather than writing a letter in support of raising another tax. You know, I know this money would go to good use if the county had it. I know there's people out there that need it, but I guess I just have a problem endorsing this on the behalf of the people of our community without having that public hearing or public comment period. So that's where I stand. Thank you.
Anyone else? Councilor Heisen?
Thank you, Mayor. I understand the concern about, approving something before there's a quote-unquote plan, I guess. But, I mean, it makes sense to me that there isn't necessarily, we can't say, actionable step 1 and 2 immediately upon passing this, because the county needs to know if they're going to get this funding and this support before they can come up with a plan. So they can't come to us with a plan if that's out of order, if that makes sense. I don't know if I'm really adequately expressing that. But what we're talking about is 10 cents out of every $100 spent, to put it in perspective. So I think that the people have spoken. I think it's been loud and clear for years, actually. If we poll people, if we talk to people, the number one concern from our community that we hear, it's the number one public comment we receive here at meetings, is people are concerned about affordable housing, they are concerned about the homelessness population, and they want their local government to do something to help. And we are very limited in what we can do to help. We're very limited in our resources, our staffing, our ability to help. And Island County Human Services, their housing support center, has phenomenal people. They do phenomenal work, real tangible work, that they are helping people stay in and get into housing. And so I think that they would be very good stewards of any funding that they receive. They have the manpower and the infrastructure and the systems to do it. We do not as a city. You know, we don't have human services. We don't have a housing support center. They have all of that already built in. They've got years of experience. They've got relationships with developers and community organizations. So I would wholeheartedly and enthusiastically support partnering with them and sending a letter of support, because I think we've heard loud and clear that people want some kind of action as far as housing goes. And, you know, Councilor Wiesner is correct. We have a plan. We have a action plan with tangible items. And I think that the part where we fall short is in the manpower and the facilities and the resources and the ability to really dig into these actionable items. And, you know, Island County Human Services has the ability to actually take our list and start taking action. So, you know, nobody likes raising taxes, but when we're talking about 10 cents out of $100, yes, it adds up for us, but it really adds up for them. This would generate more than $1 million annually, and 60% of that has to go to the actual brick and mortar development of affordable housing, which is what we need. So I think that this is a really worthwhile investment, and I think that it's something that we should not drag our feet on. I have nothing but faith and confidence in the Island County Affordable Housing Center, and I'm going to vote yes on this. Thank you.
Just a point of clarification, this may be for Mr. Oborn. Say we do nothing. There's no letter sent in. The county commissioners approve this. Does that tax increase go up when those county commissioners approve it?
Yes.
So really, our letter is moot if they decide to do it anyways. If we do no letter and they decide to do it anyways, it didn't matter that we did a letter or didn't do a letter. Okay, thank you.
It's a policy decision, and just giving you an opportunity to voice concern. Certainly, you can go the other way, too. I mean, majority rules here. It's a policy decision.
Councilor Hoffmeyer.
Yeah, out on the campaign trail, I'm not sure if affordable housing or quit raising our taxes came up more. It was pretty equally. Something needs done with both, right? And I think, like Councilor Wiesner pointed out, you know, the full recommendations of the Affordable Housing Task Force have, you know, a lot of those have been sitting for 4 or 5 years. So if we were going to say, hey, we need to raise taxes, I definitely think we need to be able to tell the public we have done everything else that we can as well. It would be pretty hard to support it at this point, but I think it is something that provides a lot of great opportunity as well. And you know, maybe as some more clarity comes about and we've done everything that we can, maybe we can get to the point to where we do endorse it. But I'm not there yet either.
Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Councilman Heisen and I and the mayor, there aren't many times where we have always asked the county to come and, hey, ask us for our opinion. And this is one of the rare times that they have. So I think whether we write a letter of support or not, we need to at least write something to them to communicate what our concerns are and what we do support of it. I mean, we just can't not do anything because we were asked. I wasn't the only one. Mr. Oborn was also called and asked, and I'm sure the mayor got some calls. So we have to say something. Yes, it is really hard to raise a tax, even though it's 10 cents out of 100, and there are a lot of people who put more money into Starbucks than they do to, I'm sorry, sometimes there's food on the table or things like that, but that is their choice. this is just one tool to help towards that. What concerns me is the rehab facility they put in was a great idea. I mean, but the reality is they just bought land and put it. They didn't really ask us if this fit into our plan for the city. It's in the middle between two residential. There is no guard. Once you admit yourself, if you decide after 2 hours or 2 days or 2 weeks you don't like it, you leave. I did a ride-along with one of our police officers recently. And that unit, good idea, good impression, but because there isn't any gate guard to say, are you sure you want to do this? Or, you ought to at least do 21 days like AA does or something. They're out on the street. The other thing is the word on the street, I don't have verification, is that they are soliciting people from off island. We have a lot of people on island that needs that facility and that help. But when you're soliciting outside people to come here, and now they don't want to stay, now they're on the street, now they're one of our transients or homeless or whatever. And the police say they're having a hard time dealing with that, and it's not just our police, it's also the sheriff's department. So we need to work together somehow on this. It won't just be us, it'll be housing throughout the whole county. I mean, they're going to put it in different areas. It is hard to vote or approve something without a plan, but Councilman Heisen's right. They need to know the support is, and they haven't canvassed or haven't been able to get a good canvassing, but it was a good start for them to ask us. So we need to do something, and I'm not sure what that is. But we've been saying, and really, a lot of questions are, what are we doing? What are we doing to help people, and not just the people that have mental health or drug issues that need housing? It's also everyday people. And Habitat is pleading with us, county, somebody, please pass this so we can get grants to put into our program. And if you've looked around the city, they have done a marvelous job with Habitat. And so we're also, in a sense, letting them down. That's why I read the comments from Eric Mann. So I need help too. I'm inclined to say, yes, we're in favor of it, but we have reservations. Is there time to take a vote to the people? Is there time, can you at least, yes, you don't have formal planning, but you must have some type of vision. I don't know. I'm pleading with you all. What can we do? We can't ignore it. I'm sorry. They've asked us, and we need to respond and respect that request. That's all I have to say right now. Thank you.
I'll go to Councilor Wiesner.
Thank you, Mayor. Has there been a direct request from Island County for us to address this issue? I mean, did they come to us and ask us for a letter of support?
I got a telephone call from one of the commissioners. It was the same commissioner that I believe called Mayor Pro Tem. Nothing in writing, and it was not a formal request.
So I guess here's a concern I have, right? The county is going to go through I'm assuming, a fairly lengthy vetting process of this, where they're going to allow public input, public comment. They're going to go through all of that to gauge how their citizens feel about this. By us writing a letter in support of it without that public comment, aren't we basically saying that we know better what the people of our community want than we do, right? And aren't we basically saying the people of our community are in support of it? And do we know that? Right? So I guess that's where the concern, I mean, I'm leaning more towards the fact that if we don't know, we don't say anything rather than say something that's wrong, right? Because I think we would be speaking out of turn for the people in our community if we didn't have some input from them, right? So I'm not saying that we're not in support of this, right? I'm not saying that. But what I'm saying is I don't know that we have enough information to speak upon speak for all of the citizens of Oak Harbor in endorsing a tax increase that's not by the vote of the people, and the people don't have any input as to whether or not we endorse it on their behalf. I guess that's where my concern comes. Thank you.
Councilor Evans, did you? Or
I'll just agree with Mr. Councilman Wiesner. That's pretty much covering it.
okay. Anyone else? Councilor Heisen.
Thank you. I think that, if we write a letter, I mean, it would be presumptuous to write a letter saying the people of Oak Harbor agree or support, blah, 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 blah. I would say, the city supports or the council supports, and that is based not only on what we know about the housing shortage, the fact that we need 1,800-ish plus or minus units, and that we've had a plan, that we've heard support. I wouldn't presume to speak for anyone, just for ourselves as a body based on the public feedback that we get. I mean, the letter of support is whatever we want it to say, right? So I just Googled this and I couldn't find an immediate answer, and I knew the answer to this once upon a time, but I can't remember. Mayor or Mr. Oborn, how much does a special election cost? I mean, I think it would cost what we would raise in a year to put it out to a vote. I mean, a special election and ballots, those cost hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it would seem to me really financially counterproductive to spend a whole bunch of taxpayer money doing a special election to find out about the 10 cents and $100. So do you know how much that costs?
I can only speak for citywide. I can't speak for countywide.
Right.
And I can only tell you that when we did the TBD, it was between $10,000 to $30,000. But I can't even guess what the fee is, what the county's going to do. That'd be a question to them. I'm not even going to try to even plug that number. It's a lot larger body. Depends on when they do the election. That's why it's if you do it in a larger election where the other items are on, it's cheaper. If you do it in a special election, it's more expensive. So it varies on that. So it's not really a question I can answer with any validity.
Well, thank you. That's helpful. 10 to 30 for the city limits is a lot less than I was anticipating. But you're right, because this would be a countywide mailing, which would be a whole other ballgame. So, I don't remember them saying whether there was I think they said specifically, I know that there wasn't a time limit on what they're proposing to do, but, this was a publicly advertised agenda item, and we solicited public comment and received none. I see a hand. So it's not like people haven't had a chance to weigh in and haven't been for years. So I'm just going based on sitting, here at this dais and hearing that people are very concerned about housing and how it's been our number one, on our top 10 list of things that need to be addressed. So that's why I would be comfortable saying that I support, or as a council we support. I wouldn't necessarily presume to speak for anyone else. It's just based on what we've been hearing. That's all.
I mean, as it was pointed out, the county could pass this whether we support it or not. So as opposed to a letter of support, maybe a letter of expectations would be better, that if they did pass it, we would expect that any tax raised in city limits stay here, and that the city be an equal decision maker, et cetera. But maybe, a letter of expectations over support possibly.
Thank you. Councilor Hoffmeyer, I believe Councilor Evans had his hand up first.
Thank you, Mayor. I just want to be respectfully clear. We were elected by the people to represent the people. And if we're going to write a letter as this body, we are representing the people. They do have a meeting on January 18th for public comment. And if we want to encourage them to do this, I think that's our best opportunity to do that. and see what the people do say. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Evans. Mayor Pro Tem.
Thank you, Mayor. Thank you all for your comments. So could we just send a letter requesting that they watch our council meeting to hear questions that were brought up earlier and now between just us, and we're just 7 people. Also ask that on our city website, Sabrina is just an expert on that, to say, hey, citizens, please let the county know, and this is the email address to use. Give them comment, up until whatever time, I don't know, 1, 2 o'clock on the 18th, to let them know some of your feelings or questions you have about this tax. Because we know a lot of citizens read our comment. It doesn't take care of Langley or Freeland or the rural area, but it does help. And in a sense, we are contributing to spreading the word and stuff. So I don't know if council would agree to that, but I would just say comment, we want to, we feel like, but we're not going, we can't decide for our citizens to tell you the citizens are in 100% support of that or something. I'm not a wordsmith, sorry.
So we could certainly try to do a message like that on our public information that we provide. I'd probably like a little extra help from council. Obviously, it sounds to me like, and I would be the first to say that this has been one of our highest priorities ever since I've been mayor, that affordable housing. So the idea of doing nothing, I don't think any of us want that. We don't want to do nothing about affordable housing. We want to do everything we can to make it work. We don't want to raise taxes. I understand that. I do kind of like the idea of suggesting that the county realize that, a fair share of this funding is going to come from the citizens of Oak Harbor. And that we would like for them to strongly consider that if they're going to make the decision that this be countywide, that funding that's provided from our citizens in the city of Oak Harbor be spent here. Words to that effect. So if that's the direction, I think we could do that. I could do that in a letter just saying that council was not ready to vote in favor or by means of a letter of support, because we haven't heard enough from our own citizens. We will encourage them to come talk to you and tell you how they feel. Okay? I think we could do that. Councilor Heisen.
Thank you, Mayor. I think that's a great step, and I really, Mr. Hoffmeyer, love the letter of expectation rather than support. We could say this is a priority. We would expect the majority of these dollars to be spent in Oak Harbor, and we expect a robust public comment solicitation and/or period. So, I think that those are all very reasonable, and that those encompass the concerns that we have. So do you want, I realize that, between the 6 of us, we just gave staff a lot to work with. But I'm like, do you want us to send in our specific concerns or expectations? Or, I think having the money spent in Oak Harbor, I think having a robust public comment process, that would address my expectations and concerns.
I think fortunately we have a recorder going. I have my scribble notes, but we have a recording going. So I think the mayor's offered to take our guests and try our best to speak for the council. And so staff could work with the mayor on what's anything kind of a letter of expectations rather than a letter of support.
Sure. I'm comfortable with that. Is that okay? I'm comfortable with that. Thank you.
Okay, Councilor Evans.
The only thing I would like to request with that is that we get to see a copy of that letter before it goes.
That is a good idea, and I have no real problems with it. However, my experience is 6 people are moving a lot of different directions these days.
Just
and-
give us the opportunity.
Well, yeah, I'll do my best, yes. And in fact, I'll try to get that letter in front of you. Would you expect to be able to respond? And I would hope you would, if you saw something. Would you tell me that it's entirely okay? I mean, we're going out on a limb here a little bit, but I'll do my best to do that.
So I'm going to defer to the city attorney because we're going to get into serial quorum issue.
Oh, that's true.
When we start
Oh.
doing input from the council with a majority, if you get under 3, we're okay, but when you start doing the majority, certainly we can provide the information. The issue we have is getting your input individually and then collectively with outside a meeting like we're at now. That's the issue. And our city attorney, Evans, if you can kind of, am I on the right track here and kind of making sure we get their input but yet stay within the law?
I think that's right. It would have to be circulated not as a group en masse, but one at a time. So individual check-ins with the mayor and or city administrator, or select 2 or 3 representatives from council to have a good look at it as a group. But really, you get into a OPMA violation if everybody's chiming in.
Lane, put at the top in 2 inch. Do not reply to all. That button doesn't work when you do that.
But even if you don't do it, if she's saying if we get his input and then his input, then we're doing the individual one at a time. But if we send it out and get multiple, then we're talking about a serial quorum. So I think we'll do our best to kind of get your input, but yet stay within the law.
Okay, I think we have a plan. Good, thank you. So we're 3 minutes into this. I'm concerned about our 9:30. Are we going to be able to get it done in 27 minutes, this executive session?
I think we can try.
Well, I guess if we don't, then we'll just ask for an extension.
Yeah.
We can extend now, and that way.
Why don't you do it to 10, and we can always go shorter. That way we don't have to come out, because it's easier to extend the closed
I'll entertain another
executive
motion.
session time. So
I'll entertain another motion to extend to 10 o'clock.
Mayor, I move that we suspend the rules and extend the meeting time till 10 p.m.
Motion second to extend the meeting time to 10 p.m., extend the rules.
I have a question.
Yes.
If we say 10, then that means we can't come into session before 10 if we get done.
No, that's extending the meeting. The mayor's going to announce the executive session for 30 minutes.
Okay.
And if we decide to do it, it's real easy for the mayor to come out and say, okay,
I
we're,
misheard. Thank you.
yeah.
You're right. You're right.
Okay, so, we have a motion second, I'm trying to remember, motion made by Councilor Wiesner, second by Councilor Hudson, to extend our regular meeting time until 10 o'clock. All in favor, signify by raising your hand, saying aye.
Aye.
Okay, that passes unanimously, so now we will go into executive session. Council will take a short break and then enter into the session to consider acquisition of real estate by lease or purchase. Action may or may not be taken upon return to the open session. Anticipated duration is approximately 30 minutes. Executive sessions are not open to the public.
Facebook page.
So I think what we're going to do is have that session right here at the diet.
Some people don't do
Correct?
the internet.
She's been capturing stuff so people can do.
Mayor Pro Tem?
We can try.
Mayor Pro Tem, we're still in session here. And so we're going into executive session, it's going to be 30 minutes. And my question is, are we staying right here?
Yes,
Okay. Do we need a short break,
you can. Go ahead.
council, or you want to just, I'm ready to go. executive session would be only 30 minutes. Okay, so then I would like to announce that we're going to be another 15 minutes.
Julie will be right in.
Okay, I'd like to reconvene this regular meeting of the Oak Harbor City Council. It is January 4th. We have been in executive session. I'd like to reconvene the regular session. At this point, it is 9:48. No decisions were made in executive session, of course, and I don't believe we have any further business in this meeting, so I would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move to adjourn.
Second.
Got a motion second to adjourn. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Thank you very much, and thank you, citizens, for your patience.